Chapter 1975. Actually, compared to Zhang Yunfei, I'm more concerned about whether the big shots of Jiutian Palace are really watching at this moment. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Fire Lotus and Qin Rushuang looked at each other, their eyes flickering as they looked at the sky. Jiutian Palace. Inside the palace. There was dead silence at this moment. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang on the screen, their faces full of shock. However, Feng Yuan and Feng Wenhai's eyes were a little hazy. For perfect stage war gods couldn't even defeat a beginner stage war god. One of them was even killed instantly. Everyone, if it were you, would you be able to do it? A black-haired old man said with a hoarse voice. Everyone shook their heads. I can't do it either. But this kid did it. But how did he do it? The black-haired old man frowned. Could it be that there's a secret hidden in his finger? Someone spoke. I can't see it. At that time, he teleported behind the cripple and it looked like an ordinary finger. Someone said. As soon as this was said, someone immediately refuted. An ordinary finger can crush the cripple's head? Even his soul was annihilated? Then why don't you tell me what secrets are hidden in his fingers? I don't know. Actually, I noticed that there was a murderous aura on his fingertip. But this murderous aura disappeared in the blink of an eye. I couldn't determine its origin. Murderous aura? Everyone fell into deep thought. Mysterious murderous aura, speed surpassing war gods, and the method to reflect divine power. This kid is definitely not a simple character. Among you, does anyone know him? The black-haired old man glanced at everyone and asked. Everyone shook their heads. Great Elder. Feng Yuan suddenly stood up. Everyone looked at Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan said, Everyone, Great Elder, I know this kid. You know him? Could he be a relative of yours? The black-haired old man was suspicious. Relative? Feng Yuan's face twitched. He shook his head and said, Great Elder, this kid is not a relative of mine. I only know his name. As for his background, I sent people to investigate but found nothing. So mysterious? Everyone looked at each other. What's his name? Asked the black-haired old man. Jiang Haotian. According to my investigation, he entered Heavenly Dragon City a few days ago. Feng Yuan said. Then how do you know him? Someone asked doubtfully. This kid is an extremely arrogant person. A few days ago, he humiliated my grandson in front of everyone in the treasure pavilion, causing me to lose all face. However, this doesn't matter. After all, my grandson's skills are inferior. But, what's even more excessive is that he actually slandered our Nine Heavens Palace in the dark. They say that our Nine Heavens Palace is a bully, a scourge of the northern region. Therefore, I would like to implore Grand Elder to severely punish this child as a warning to others. Feng Yuan bowed. Did he really slander you like that? Everyone was seething with anger. Absolutely. Feng Yuan nodded. Great Elder, this matter is indeed very serious. That's right. We should immediately disqualify him from the examination and cut off his head in front of everyone as an example to others. The group was furious as they looked at the black-haired old man. The black-haired old man looked at the image of Qin Feiyang, his eyes flickering. Feng Wenhai glanced at the black-haired old man and transmitted his voice. Lord Father, how come I didn't know that Jiang Haotian had slandered our Nine Heavens Palace? Idiot. This is obviously something I made up. Feng Yuan said. Made up. Feng Wenhai was shocked and transmitted his voice. Lord Father, you're lying to everyone. These people are either in seclusion or in seclusion. They don't know anything about the outside world. Even if I lied to them, they wouldn't know. Feng Yuan sneered. Although that's the case, these people aren't stupid. Especially Grand Elder, he's smart and cautious. He'll definitely send people to investigate. When he finds out that there's no such thing, Lord Father, how are you going to explain it to him? Feng Wenhai said. So, I need you to make arrangements for this matter. Feng Yuan transmitted his voice. How? Feng Wenhai was suspicious. Let someone pretend to be Jiang Haotian's accomplice and go to the major restaurants to spread these rumors. This way, Jiang Haotian won't be able to defend himself. Feng Yuan secretly sneered. Hearing this, Feng Wenhai secretly gave a thumbs up and said, Lord Father is wise. Ha, daring to offend me, Feng Yuan, is courting death. Feng Yuan secretly laughed. Feng Wenhai's eyes also had a trace of a smile, then found an excuse and left the hall. We can't wrong a good person, but we can't let a bad person go. This matter still needs to be investigated. After the investigation, we'll make a decision. Not long after Feng Wenhai left, the black-haired old man who had been silent finally spoke. Feng Yuan's eyes flashed and returned to his seat, not saying anything again. At the same time, in a small valley, One-Eyed Dragon, Li Gui, and the little girl all sat on the ground, cold sweat all over their bodies, their faces full of fear. I really didn't expect this Jiang Haotian to be so powerful. Suddenly, a low voice sounded above the valley. The three of them were stunned and looked up, only to see a purple-clothed youth standing in the void above, holding a folding fan in his hand, looking quite elegant. Zhang Yunfei? Why are you here? The little girl raised her eyebrows. Zhang Yunfei landed in front of the three of them and said, I followed you all the way here. What about Big Brother Nye? Li Gui asked. Zhang Yunfei said, he's with Jiang Haotian. What? Isn't he courting death? The little girl and the other two's faces changed. Don't worry. Big Brother Nye isn't that easy to deal with. Zhang Yunfei opened his folding fan and slowly fanned it, smiling. That's true. The three of them nodded. The little girl let out a long sigh and said, I thought this mission would be very simple, but I didn't expect it to be so difficult. Li Gui said sinisterly, it's all, show. Zhang Yunfei's expression changed, and hurriedly made a gesture to Li Gui to keep quiet. What? Li Gui frowned. Have you forgotten what Guillaume said? During the test, the big shots of Nine Heaven Palace will be secretly watching us? If you say it now, won't it be the same as exposing that we were ordered by Feng Yuan and Feng Wenhai? Zhang Yunfei said. Hearing this, Li Gui looked at the sky in horror and said, I really forgot about this, but I'm not wrong. It's all Guillaume, Feng Yuan, and Feng Wenhai's fault. Indeed. They should have told us Jiang Haotian's true strength. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been so careless. Even a cripple won't die. The one-eyed man thought. The most important thing is that the soul stones they gave were far less than Jiang Haotian's value. With Jiang Haotian's strength, he should have given us at least 100,000 soul stones each. But they only gave us 50,000. The little girl said angrily. Maybe Feng Yuan and the others don't know Jiang Haotian's true strength. However, since we've already accepted this mission, we have to continue. Otherwise, not to mention Jiang Haotian, even Feng Yuan won't let us go. You all know the forces in Feng Yuan's hands. If we're targeted by him, even Nye Yun, the son of the Star River City Lord, won't be able to escape. Zhang Yunfei said secretly. We know this. But this Jiang Haotian's methods are so terrifying, how should we deal with him? Li Gui asked secretly. Don't worry. Big Brother Nye has his own way. Let's just follow them and see what happens. Zhang Yunfei smiled secretly. We can only rely on Big Brother Nye now. Let's go. If we delay any longer, we won't be able to catch up with them. The little girl sighed secretly. Roar. Boom. At this time, the Sky Dragon mountain range was filled with killing intent. Battles could be seen everywhere. Qin Feiyang and the others were unimpeded. Because of Nye Yun. After all, they were still at the edge and it was difficult to encounter a Lord God-level beast. Therefore, with Nye Yun's strength, he could kill any beast in an instant. In Nye Yun's opinion, The more effort he put in, the more Qin Feiyang and the others would trust him. Only then could he find a chance to kill with one strike. On the surface, Qin Feiyang treated him wholeheartedly, but he never let him get close to Fire Lotus and Qin Rushuang. Qin Rushuang glanced at Niayun and said secretly, "Feiyang, when you killed the cripple, did you use the kill symbol art?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang replied. "As expected. Like I said, how could you possibly be able to shatter his head with merely the power of a finger?" Qin Rushuang smiled. "I couldn't do anything. It's impossible to kill a perfect realm god of war with other divine arts. However, I did it secretly. Even if the big shots of the Ninth Heaven Palace were watching, they probably wouldn't have noticed." Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. "If they were really watching us, even if they didn't notice the kill symbol art, it would have attracted their attention. After all, a beginner realm god of war killing a perfect realm god of war in an instant is an unbelievable thing. From now on, we have to be more cautious." Qin Rushuang reminded. "I know. Oh right. Before Cripple and the others ambushed us, you said something. You said you were very concerned about something. What is it?" Qin Feiyang asked secretly. Qin Rushuang became silent. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang was even more confused. Sigh. Qin Rushuang sighed secretly and transmitted her voice. "I'm concerned about the power of the bloodline." "The power of the bloodline?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "That's right. You, a descendant of several generations, have already undergone atavism. However, I, his biological daughter, have not shown any signs of atavism. I can't help but wonder if I'm really his flesh and blood." Qin Rushuang said helplessly. "So it's about this." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and secretly said proudly, "This kind of thing depends on talent and opportunity. It can't be forced. Don't be so smug." Qin Rushuang glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. Qin Feiyang smiled. "Actually, this kind of thing really can't be forced. For example, his great-grandfather Emperor Hong, as the biological son of the ancestor, didn't his bloodline power also not undergo atavism? So, it's better to let nature take its course. Otherwise, it will only add to his troubles if he continues to be entangled." Chapter 1976. Time flew by. Night gradually fell. Sky Dragon Mountain Range was actually more dangerous at night. Because there were many poisonous insects, such as poisonous snakes, scorpions, and spiders, that appeared at night. If one wasn't careful, one would fall into their hands. Even detoxification pills couldn't detoxify many poisonous insects. So at night, Qin Feiyang and the others were even more careful. A whole day passed, and they were about to enter the depths of Sky Dragon Mountain Range. The beasts they encountered were far from comparable to those at the periphery. Occasionally, they would encounter a half-step divine lord. Without exception. Whenever they encountered such a beast, the group would choose to take a detour. During this period, Niayun also wanted to attack Qin Feiyang and the others from behind several times, but it was easily resolved by Qin Feiyang. Moreover, every time Qin Feiyang resolved a crisis, it was as if it was an accident, as if it was just a coincidence. After failing again and again, although Niayun was a little annoyed, he didn't take it to heart. Because in his opinion, it was a coincidence. Boom! Midnight. The five of them finally entered the depths. According to the current situation, we must be the first to arrive at Nine Heaven Palace. Niayun smiled. It's all thanks to Brother Nya. Otherwise, we would still be wandering around the periphery. Qin Feiyang said. No. With Brother Zhang's strength, even without me, he would have already entered the depths. Niayun quickly waved his hand, looking very humble. Hua Yi suddenly said, Listen, is there a battle sound in front? Battle? Qin Feiyang and the others were taken aback. They calmed down and listened carefully. Gradually, a trace of surprise crawled on their faces as they looked at the depths of the mountain in front of them. Over there was indeed a battle sound. But because of the distance, they could only vaguely hear it. Is it a human fight? Or is it a fierce battle between beasts? Niayan frowned. Is there a difference? Fire Lotus was suspicious. Of course there is a difference. If it's a fierce battle between beasts, then it's nothing. But if it's a human fight, it means that someone is walking in front of us. Niayan said. Walking in front of us? Impossible. Along the way, we haven't been delayed at all. Who can run ahead of us? Fire Lotus said. Hui shook his head and smiled. Little sister Fire Lotus, there is always someone better than you. We cannot be too careless. Fire Lotus nodded. Qin Rishwang added, ignore the battle over there. Let's continue on our way. Compared to first place, nothing else mattered. Yes. Niayan nodded and continued to lead the way. Qin Feiyang and the other three followed closely behind. Although the direction they were heading towards was slightly different from the direction of the battle, they were still roughly in the same direction. The closer they got, the clearer the sounds of battle became. Wait. It seems like humans and dire beasts are fighting. Niayan suddenly braked and stopped. He looked in the direction of the battle and said in a deep voice. It does seem like a human's aura. Qin Rishwang whispered. There really is someone walking in front of us. Who is it? Why is he so powerful? Fire Lotus frowned. Why don't we go and take a look? If it's a difficult character, we have to get rid of him as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm afraid the first place will fall into his hands. Niayan suggested. That won't do. Qin Rishwang immediately said. Qin Feiyang glanced at Niayan and his eyes flashed. This person was really looking for opportunities at any time. On the surface, Niayan was fighting for the first place, but in fact, he was creating opportunities. Because once a battle broke out, Niayan would have the opportunity to plot against them behind their backs. How could they let him succeed with such petty tricks? It's better not to go. After all, this is already deep in the Sky Dragon Mountain range. If it's a monarch god-level dire beast, then we will be courting death if we go there. Qin Feiyang said calmly. Niayan was quite annoyed, but he nodded and smiled. Brother Zhang's consideration is reasonable. No. We should go and take a look. Hui shook his head. Why? Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked at Hui suspiciously. Hui said, if the direction is correct, then the place of battle should be the Black Dragon Lake. Black Dragon Lake? Qin Feiyang raised his head in bewilderment. Although he and Fire Lotus had been to the Black Dragon Lake before, they had used the altar to teleport there, so they did not know the exact location. What kind of place is the Black Dragon Lake? Niayan looked at Hui in confusion. Hui smiled. This Black Dragon Lake is not simple. There is a half-step monarch god-level black dragon lurking in it. As he spoke, he glanced at Qin Feiyang with a meaningful look. Black dragon. Niayan was shocked. Let's go and take a look. Qin Feiyang suddenly waved his hand and swept up Fire Lotus and Qin Rishwang, flying in that direction. Niayan and Hui saw this and quickly followed. Niayan smiled. Brother Hua, you even know a place like the Black Dragon Lake. It seems like you know the situation of the Sky Dragon Mountain range very well. I've been here before. Hui smiled. Been here before? Niayan's eyes went wide, and he said in surprise, Brother Hua, are you sure? Hui nodded. I thought that you found someone to inquire about it, but I didn't expect you to come here personally. You're amazing. Niayan's face was full of admiration. You flatter me. Hui said with a faint smile. Niayan turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang's back, and there was a trace of seriousness in the depths of his eyes. Originally, he thought that among this group of people, only Qin Feiyang was difficult to deal with. Because Fire Lotus and the other two had not displayed their outstanding strength all day. However, he did not expect. This Huai had actually come to the Sky Dragon mountain range. And he even came to the depths. It seemed that this person was not as simple as he looked on the surface. The distance was getting closer and closer. The battle fluctuations could also be clearly sensed. Dragon might. Nia Yun's gaze trembled. There was an extremely pure dragon might in this battle fluctuation. Hua Yi said, "Brother Jiang, it seems that someone is fighting with the black dragon." However, Qin Feiyang did not seem to hear it, as he stared in the direction of the black dragon lake, his gaze as gloomy as water. Qin Rishwang's face was also extremely ugly. However, Nia Yun and Hua Yi behind the two did not notice. But Fire Lotus at the side sensed something, and transmitted her voice, "Qin Dage, Sister Rishwang, what are you guys doing? What a familiar aura." Qin Rishwang secretly transmitted her voice, her eyes full of disgust. "That's right. It's him," Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. "Who?" Fire Lotus was bewildered. What kind of person could make Qin Feiyang and Qin Rishwang so resentful? Mu Tianyang. Qin Feiyang said word by word, and transmitted his voice. "What? It's actually him." Fire Lotus was shocked. Qin Feiyang secretly said, "Now I'm finally sure that he was the one who saved Guosweki. Humph. He's still going against us. It seems that the lesson we taught him back then was not enough." Qin Rishwang snorted coldly. Clang. Just as Qin Rishwang's voice fell, a deafening metallic sound came from the direction of the Black Dragon Lake. Following it was a monstrous evil aura. "This is Blood Blade's aura." Qin Rishwang's gaze trembled. Not good. He must be trying to snatch Black Dragon's divine soul. Qin Feiyang secretly shouted coldly, and without hesitation, he used the attainment formula. His speed directly soared several times, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared from Hua Yi and Nia Yun's sight. This, Nia Yun was dumbfounded. Hua Yi also had a bitter smile. This person was really terrifying when he went crazy. Above the Black Dragon Lake. At this moment, a young man in purple clothes and a purple crown stood against the wind. Above his head, a blood-red dagger was suspended. If it was not Mu Tianyang and Blood Blade, who else could it be? Opposite. Black Dragon looked at Blood Blade, his huge body trembling, and his huge eyes were filled with fear. On the other side, a man and a woman were standing together. It was Guosweki and Mu Qing. Guosweki looked at Mu Tianyang and Blood Blade, and was also shocked. But Mu Qing's expression did not change at all, and there was a strange light in his eyes. Suddenly, the corner of his mouth raised slightly, looked at Mu Tianyang, and said with a smile, "He's almost here." "Is that so?" Mu Tianyang chuckled, looked at Black Dragon and said, "I've played with you for so long, it's time to send you on your way." Black Dragon turned and fled. Whoosh! But Blood Blade instantly arrived behind Black Dragon, and directly cut Black Dragon's body in half. Dragon blood poured down like a waterfall, dyeing the sky red. Half-step divine lords are just ants. Mu Tianyang smiled contemptuously, put away Blood Blade, and then waved his hand, and Black Dragon's body suddenly disappeared. Mu Tianyang. It was also at this moment. A murderous roar could be heard. Mu Tianyang looked up, and a smile appeared on his face. Mu Qing also flew to Mu Tianyang's side with Guosweki, and then looked up. Mu Qing's eyes were full of playfulness. However, Guosweki's eyes contained a trace of hatred that could not be dissolved. Swoosh! Very soon, 3 figures landed in the void opposite Mu Tianyang. It was Qin Feiyang and the other two. Qin Feiyang looked at the dragon blood all over the ground, and his eyes suddenly darkened. Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang and Qin Rushwang, and secretly laughed. I didn't expect that we would meet in such a way. Telepathic message? Qin Feiyang and Qin Rushwang were stunned. It seemed that Mu Tianyang also knew that the big shots of Nine Heavens Palace were secretly watching at this time. Where's Black Dragon? Qin Feiyang secretly asked. I've already killed him. Mu Tianyang secretly laughed. You, Qin Feiyang's eyes were full of anger. I just stole your prey. Yet, you killed my younger brother and the woman I loved the most. So the person who should be angry is me. Mu Tianyang secretly said. I'm very sorry about Shenmei's death. But Heavenly Lord Mu deserves to die. Not only does Heavenly Lord Mu deserve to die, but you also deserve to die. Qin Feiyang said. Yes. I do deserve to die. But the heavens don't accept me. Mu Tianyang laughed. Mu Tianyang, aren't you ashamed to say this? If it weren't for Qin Yuan's help, would you have survived? Qin Rushwang was secretly angry. Yes. I'm very grateful to Qin Yuan. It's also because of this that I didn't disclose your identities. Mu Tianyang secretly said. Chapter 1977. Do you think I'm an idiot? You, Mu Tianyang, are a grateful person? Qin Feiyang sneered. Haha, you, Qin Feiyang, know me best. That's right. I didn't reveal your identity. It has nothing to do with Qin Yuan saving me. Because I want you to reveal your identity yourself. It's more interesting to do this than me revealing it. Mu Tianyang thought. You want me to reveal my identity? Don't say that I'm looking down on you. Can you do it? Qin Feiyang sneered. We'll see if I can do it or not. Mu Tianyang smiled playfully, then turned around and left. Wait. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. You want to kill me? Then you have to think about it carefully. Because if you don't use all your means, it's impossible to kill me. Mu Tianyang stopped in his tracks, but he didn't turn around. You're not worth killing. I want to know where the demon ancestor, Mo Long, and Dong Xingyang are now. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Them? I don't know either. Mu Tianyang shook his head. Qin Feiyang was stunned and said suspiciously, You entered the ancient world together. How can you not know? I'm also very puzzled about this. Mu Tianyang lowered his head, his eyes full of suspicion. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. At that time, not long after we entered the ancient world, a mysterious force suddenly appeared. The few of us fainted on the spot. When Mu Qing and I woke up, we found that we were already near Sky Dragon City, but there was no trace of the demon ancestor, Dong Xingyang, and Mo Long. I've been looking for them for the past half a year, but there was no news at all. It's like they disappeared from the world. Mu Tianyang turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said secretly. Mysterious power. Qin Feiyang frowned. Mu Tianyang pondered and said, I'm guessing that someone is trying to separate us on purpose. Are you talking about Ice Dragon or Small Beast? Qin Feiyang said. Other than them, I don't think I can find anyone else. Mu Tianyang said. What are these two bastards trying to do? Qin Feiyang frowned. What are you trying to do? In my opinion, in their eyes, we are just a few toys for them to play with. Mu Tianyang snorted coldly. Let's not talk about this for now. Do you know how the inner demons died? Qin Feiyang thought. What? The inner demons are dead? Mu Tianyang was shocked. Yes. Not only did the inner demons die, but my cousin also died on the 3rd level. Qin Feiyang nodded. I don't know about that. That's because when we entered the divine site, the fire python sent us to the ancient world. But, Mu Tianyang finished speaking and frowned again. But what? Qin Feiyang asked secretly. That's not right. Back then, Dong Xingyang clearly said that they wouldn't die. Can the eye of destiny be wrong? Mu Tianyang thought. The eye of destiny, Qin Feiyang muttered. Mu Tianyang said telepathically, wait, can't you and the inner demons communicate telepathically? That's right. But I can't sense his existence. Qin Feiyang said. Then it seems like Dong Xingyang's eye of destiny isn't very accurate. Although I'm very happy that the inner demons are dead, I still want to comfort you. My condolences. Let's have some fun in the ninth heaven palace in the future. After Mu Tianyang finished speaking, he turned around and left with a face full of schadenfreude. Let's go too. Mu Qin looked at Guosweki and said. Then, she left without looking back. Guosweki looked at Qin Feiyang and said telepathically, let me ask you. Were you the one who saved Gao Xiaowei and helped Gao Xiaolong destroy my Guo family? Qin Feiyang said, didn't Mu Tianyang and the others tell you? Guosweki said angrily, I want you to answer me personally. It was me. Qin Feiyang nodded. If you don't want to marry me, you can say it directly. I won't stop you. I can even destroy the marriage contract in front of you. But why are you so ruthless? Guosweki's eyes trembled and tears flowed down her face. Qin Feiyang was about to say something. There's no need to say anything. I'll make you and Gao Xiaolong pay for this blood debt sooner or later. Guosweki smiled coldly and turned to chase after Mu Tianyang and Huiyu. Only tell her that you helped Gao Xiaolong destroy the Guo family, but don't tell her that the marriage contract was forged by Guo Zixiong. This Mu Tianyang is really despicable. Fire Lotus said with disgust. This is his usual style. He used Guosweki's hatred for me to make Guosweki a sharp blade in his hand. I want to see what tricks he can play. Qin Feiyang snorted. Whoosh. At this moment, Nia Yun and Hui finally arrived. Looking at the dragon blood below, the two exchanged a glance and then looked at Qin Feiyang. Brother Jiang, where's the black dragon? It's already been killed. Let's set off quickly, otherwise the first place will really be snatched away. Qin Feiyang said solemnly. The half-step divine monarch black dragon was actually killed by someone? Nia Yun was shocked and asked, who is it? So terrifying? I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Hui looked at Qin Feiyang meaningfully and cupped his fists. Brother Nia, I'll have to trouble you to continue opening the way. My pleasure. Nia Yun smiled. Qin Feiyang added, don't take another detour. No detours? Nia Yun was stunned. Go straight ahead. Qin Feiyang looked in the direction Mu Tianyang and the other two disappeared, his eyes shining. Behind. 3 men and 1 woman were moving as fast as lightning. It was Zhang Yunfei and the other 3 who had been tailing behind. At this moment, they were all sweating profusely and panting like oxen. What is Brother Nia doing? Why did he suddenly run so fast? At this rate, even if we catch up with them, we will be exhausted to death. Zhang Yunfei complained. Could it be that something happened? The fierce ghost frowned. Hearing this, Zhang Yunfei, One-Eyed Dragon, and the girl's heart sank. How is that possible? Brother Nia's strength is stronger than us. And he even has a pinnacle divine artifact. Even if he encounters any danger, he will definitely be fine. The girls suddenly laughed. True. Zhang Yunfei and the other 2 nodded. The girl transmitted her voice again. It's just that those people bought by Feng Yuan are probably useless. Those people are originally trash. The fierce ghost laughed. That's right. With their speed, I'm afraid they are still wandering in the periphery. And even if they can catch up with us, they can't help much. However, although these people are useless, those beasts bought by Feng Yuan can play a big role. One-Eyed Dragon secretly sneered. Yes, yes, yes. With these beasts, Jiang Haotian and his group, no matter how capable they are, they won't be able to escape death. And I think they are about to take action. The fierce ghost grinned. There are a few good young people in this year's assessment. 9 Heaven Palace. In the main hall. The black-haired old man looked at 2 of the images and laughed happily. These 2 images were of Qin Feiyang, Mu Tianyang, and the others. Yes. One has the strength to kill a perfect war god. The other has the means to kill a half-step monarch god. These 2 already have the ability to shake the earth board. I estimate that once they enter 9 Heaven Palace, there will be changes to the earth board. The rest of the people were also full of smiles. Everyone, don't be happy too early. Feng Yuan suddenly said. Someone asked, with these 2 monstrous talents, Hall Master Feng Yuan, aren't you happy? Happy. Of course I'm happy. But don't you find it strange that the purple-clothed youth's divine weapon is a bit too powerful? Feng Yuan frowned. That's true. That bloody blade didn't even awaken and it killed He Long. If it awakens, won't it be even more terrifying? For an unknown person to possess such a terrifying divine item, it's truly inconceivable. Some people began to discuss softly. Hall Master Feng Yuan, you are in charge of the resource hall, so you are more familiar with divine weapons than us. Do you know the origin of that bloody blade? Someone asked. To be honest, I've never heard of it. And because it hasn't awakened, I can't determine the grade of that bloody blade. But from the way it killed He Long, I guess that this bloody blade has surpassed the pinnacle divine weapon level. Feng Yuan analyzed. Beyond the pinnacle divine weapon, then, it's a legendary divine weapon? The black-haired old man said. Feng Yuan nodded, it's most likely a legendary divine weapon. Then we'll have to investigate this person's identity. After all, even our 9 Heavens Palace doesn't have many legendary divine weapons. The black-haired old man said. Shwa. Suddenly. A black-clothed man appeared in the hall and knelt on one knee before the black-haired old man. Greetings, First Elder. Seeing this black-clothed man appear, Feng Yuan's eyes flashed. How is it? The black-haired old man looked at the black-clothed man and asked. According to this subordinate's investigation, there are indeed several accomplices of Jiang Haotian slandering our 9 Heavens Palace in some restaurants. The black-clothed man said. Preposterous. Even if this person is a genius, we can't tolerate him. That's right. First Elder, I suggest we kill him immediately. Angry shouts rang out in the main hall. Jiang Haotian, do you see this? This is the result of going against me. Who do you think I am? You dare to offend me? I have 10,000 ways to kill you. Feng Yuan laughed inwardly. The black-haired old man raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang on the screen and frowned. First Elder, there's nothing to hesitate about. Our northern region doesn't lack talents. Please give the order. The group urged. The black-haired old man didn't say anything. He looked down at the black-clothed man and asked, Are you sure? This subordinate is sure. The black-clothed man nodded. The black-haired old man pondered for a while and said with a hoarse laugh, This matter isn't urgent. Let's wait and see. Feng Yuan was stunned. What did he mean? Wait and see. Wait and see what? What was there to see? The others also looked at the black-haired old man with a puzzled expression. The black-haired old man smiled and said indifferently, He's just an early-stage war god. There's no need to be so concerned. Let's wait until the end of the examination. All right. Since the First Elder had spoken, the others could only accept helplessly. Little bastard, I'll let you live for one more day. Feng Yuan looked at Qin Feiyang, and his eyes were suffused with a wisp of shocking viciousness. Chapter 1978. Time flew by. The next morning. Half of the assessment time had passed. Qin Feiyang's group of 5 rushed without stopping, and they were not far from the hinterland. However, Mu Tianyang's group was still in front of them. To be exact, they had been following behind Mu Tianyang's group. Qin Rushuang frowned and sent a sound transmission. Fei Yang, why don't you use the Qi Xing formula to surpass them and keep following behind them? If this continues, they will definitely be first place. Do you really want to get first place that much? Qin Fei Yang laughed secretly. Nonsense. 100,000 soul stones is enough for all of us to break through to the level of War God. Who doesn't want it? Qin Rushuang said angrily. Everyone? Qin Fei Yang was surprised. Yes. During this period of time, we have been in seclusion in the castle and calculated carefully. From the pseudo-god to the level of War God, 1,000 soul stones are needed. But from the level of War God to the level of War God, one needs 10,000 soul stones. Qin Rushuang secretly said. 10,000. Qin Fei Yang was shocked. Could it be that no one had broken through during this period of time? It turned out that it required so many soul stones. First, he swindled 10,000 soul stones from the blood python. Then, he looted the Gua family's treasure vault and obtained another 3,000 to 4,000 soul stones. Finally, he killed the 2 black-clothed men sent by Gu Yong and obtained another 1,000 soul stones. From Qin Fei Yang's point of view, this was already a large sum. However, he didn't expect that it was just a drop in the bucket. But what was worth celebrating was that he had obtained more than 50,000 soul stones from killing Cripple. Thinking of this, Qin Fei Yang glanced at Nya Yun. As the son of the Star River City Lord, he should have more soul stones than Cripple. Qin Fei Yang suddenly said, Brother Nya, Brother Hua, can I ask you a question? What question? The two of them were stunned and looked at him suspiciously. Qin Fei Yang asked, how many soul stones do you need to break through from the pseudo-god to the monarch god? The two of them were stunned. What is it? Qin Fei Yang was puzzled. Nya Yun replied, as long as one has broken through to the semi-divinity realm, they should know something like that. To tell you the truth. In the past, we've been following Master and living in seclusion in the mountains. Thus, we don't know much about these matters. Qin Fei Yang smiled. Fire Lotus and Qin Rushuang nodded as well. Nya Yun said in surprise, then you guys can be considered as hidden experts. Sorry for the disrespect. To put it nicely, he's a hidden expert. To put it bluntly, he's a country bumpkin who hasn't seen the world. Qin Fei Yang shook his head and smiled bitterly. You can't say that. In today's world, to be able to cast everything aside and hide in the depths of the mountains, not caring about worldly affairs, how rare is that? To put it bluntly, without extraordinary perseverance and temperament, it's impossible. Nya Yun sighed. Brother Nya is right. Hua Yi nodded. Listening to the two's words, Qin Fei Yang and the other two were a little embarrassed. Brother Jiang, just now you seemed to say that you've been following Master and living in seclusion in the depths of the mountains? Nya Yun suddenly said. Qin Fei Yang nodded. To be able to nurture such outstanding disciples like you, he must be a great figure. Nya Yun smiled without batting an eyelid. I don't know about that. Qin Fei Yang shook his head. Obviously. Nya Yun wanted to inquire about something. Nya Yun asked curiously, then may I ask Brother Jiang, what's his name? Master has never mentioned his name before. Moreover, Master has always been very strict. We dare not ask too much. Qin Fei Yang said. A strict master produces outstanding disciples. Nya Yun chuckled. Qin Fei Yang smiled. What do you mean by that? It seems like we're the ones asking you questions. Why are you the ones asking non-stop now? Fire Lotus looked at Nya Yun and Hua Yi with dissatisfaction. Haha, Nya Yun and Hua Yi looked at each other and laughed, saying, it's our fault, our fault. Miss, don't be angry. The total number of soul stones needed to break through from the pseudo-god realm to the divine lord realm is not a small amount. The three of you, let me explain it to you like this. Even if I, the son of the city lord, went bankrupt, I still wouldn't be able to gather so many soul stones. Nia Yun looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two and said, "Is it that exaggerated?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "It's not exaggerated at all. You guys calculate carefully. To break through from the initial stage of the pseudo-god realm to the initial stage of the war god realm, you need 1,000 soul stones. To break through to the initial stage of the war god realm, you need 10,000 soul stones. To break through to the large success stage, you need 100,000 soul stones. To break through to the perfection stage, you need 1,000,000 soul stones. To break through to the perfection stage, you need 10,000,000 soul stones. And to break through from the perfection stage to the half-step Divine Lord realm, and then to the initial stage Divine Lord realm, you need a total of 100,000,000 soul stones. Tell me, who can take out such a large amount of soul stones?" Nia Yun said. This, Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at each other. They actually needed more than 100,000,000 soul stones to break through from the pseudo-god realm to the Divine Lord realm? Then wouldn't all of them add up to more than 1,000,000,000 soul stones? Fire Lotus didn't count as she was an outsider after all. Other than Fire Lotus, there was the Mermaid Princess, Qin Feiyang, Qin Rushwang, Tan Tai Li, Zhao Tai Lai, Chui Li, Tang Hai, Willow Tree, Yu Huang, White-Eyed Wolf, Blood Kirin, Thunder Leopard, Golden Leopard, and Dan Wang Kai. A total of 9 people and 5 beasts. In total, they would need to find at least 1.5 billion soul stones. 1.5 billion was simply impossible. Because now, even 1,000,000 soul stones was an astronomical number in their eyes. Soul stones are limited. Even the 9th Heaven Palace and the Treasure Pavilion can't afford such consumption. So, cultivation mainly depends on one's own efforts. As for soul stones, I can only say that it depends on luck. It's naturally best if there is. If there isn't, we can't force it. Hua Yi sighed. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. It seemed that using soul stones to accumulate everyone's cultivation was a bit unrealistic. Rumble. Suddenly, ear-splitting noises came from the mountains on both sides. Qin Feiyang and the others stopped and turned their heads, their eyes full of surprise. But deep in Nia Yun's eyes, there was a flash of light. Had they finally started to act? What's going on with this movement? Could it be that there are beasts coming from both sides? Hua Yi was surprised. At this moment, the ground on both sides was shaking. It seemed that there was a beast tide coming from afar. Fire Lotus glanced at Nia Yun and said, "Qin Dage, could it be that the beasts that Feng Yuan bought have moved out?" "It could be," Qin Feiyang secretly said. Fire Lotus's eyes sank and said worriedly, "If it's true, then how should we deal with it? One must know." What Feng Yuan bought were not ordinary beasts, but monarch god-level beast emperors. These beast emperors were not only strong, but they also ruled a large number of beasts. If they were to join hands and charge over, then even Qin Feiyang would have to activate his slaughter domain to deal with them. "Don't worry. I already have a plan." Qin Feiyang secretly sneered. Crack. Boom. The rumbling sound became more and more deafening. The trembling ground became more and more violent. The mountains in the distance began to collapse, billowing dust and smoke rose into the sky and spread in all directions. Finally, one beast after another appeared in their line of sight. Some were running on the ground. Some were flying in the air. Without exception, each of them was a giant beast comparable to a mountain. The aura they emitted was also terrifying. There were even more than 100 half-step monarch god beasts. At a glance, it was a black mass, covering the sky and the sun, with a monstrous ferocious aura. What's going on? Why are there so many beasts suddenly running out? Hua Yi was dumbfounded. Beast tide, Nia Yun's face was also deathly pale. Roar. Humans, be our food obediently. Accompanied by a ferocious roar, more than a dozen beasts took the lead, collapsing one giant peak after another, pouncing towards Qin Feiyang's group. These dozen beasts were all half-step monarch god. Nie Yun's body trembled and he roared, "Brother Jiang, Brother Hua, quickly run." A cold light flashed across Qin Feiyang's eyes. With a flick of his sleeves, he swept up the four of them and executed the walk character art in teleportation, tearing through the air like lightning. What fast speed! However, don't think about escaping. Under the lead of those half-step monarch god beasts, the beast tides on both sides chased after Qin Feiyang's group crazily. Ahead, Mu Tianyang trio stood in the void, looking at the beast tides on both sides with a look of surprise. Why would a beast tide appear out of nowhere? Brother Mu, long time no see. Suddenly, a hearty laugh came. Mu Tianyang was taken aback. He turned his head to look and saw Qin Feiyang rushing over. Not only was he smiling, but his face was also full of enthusiasm. What do you mean? Mu Tianyang frowned. In just a few blinks of an eye, Qin Feiyang rushed in front of Mu Tianyang and immediately gave Mu Tianyang a bear hug. With tears in his eyes, he smiled and said, "Good brother, we finally meet again." Good brother? Mu Tianyang was stunned. Mu Qing, Guosweki, Fire Lotus, Qin Rushwang, Nie Yun, and Hui Yi also looked at the two with a dumbfounded expression. Wait. What are you doing? Who's your brother? Mu Tianyang came back to his senses and hurriedly pushed Qin Feiyang away, shouting with disgust in his eyes. Brother, although we haven't seen each other for a long time, you can't be so heartless and not recognize me as your brother. I remember when we were young, we even wore underwear together. If there was a candy, you had to share it with me. Qin Feiyang said. Stop, stop. Mu Tianyang hurriedly waved his hand. Humans, let's see where you can run to. Little ones, kill them for me. Accompanied by a series of roars, the beast tide caught up with a fierce glint in their eyes. Not good. As soon as he saw the beast tide, Mu Tianyang had a premonition of uneasiness. Ancestor, we seem to have been tricked. Mu Qing said with a frown as she looked at the aggressive beast tide. Tricked? Mu Tianyang stared blankly and immediately understood. Qin Feiyang deliberately got close to him and then used him to deal with the beast tide. Bastard, you win. Run. Immediately. Mu Tianyang glared at Qin Feiyang angrily, then shouted at Mu Qing and Hui Yi, turned around and began to flee. Brother, wait for me. Qin Feiyang smiled and quickly caught up with Mu Tianyang with Fire Lotus and the other three. Don't let any of them go, chase. Those beasts roared ferociously. Literature Museum. Chapter 1979. Fire Lotus glanced at Mu Tianyang, and then looked at the beast horde behind them. She suddenly smiled and said, I finally understand. So you followed Mu Tianyang for this? Of course. She was transmitting her voice. What else do you think? This Mu Tianyang first saved Guosweki, then killed the black dragon. He has to do something. Qin Feiyang secretly laughed. So many ideas. Qin Rushwang looked at Qin Feiyang with disdain, but her eyes were full of smiles. However, feeling the terrifying power behind them, Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing's faces sank. Mu Qing kept transmitting his voice, Qin Feiyang, you're despicable. Despicable? As soon as I arrived at Sky Dragon City, you started to scheme against me. Who is more despicable? Qin Feiyang secretly said. Don't be complacent. I won't let you succeed. Mu Qing coldly snorted, turned to look at the beasts and said, Everyone, we have nothing to do with this Jiang Haotian. If you want to kill him, kill him. Don't chase us. Do you think we're blind? Just now, he clearly called you good brothers and hugged that human with tears streaming down his face. The beasts in the lead sneered. This is his trick. He wants to drag us down with him. Mu Qing said angrily, but what he got in return was the group of beast sneers. Don't say any more. They won't believe it at all. Even if they believe it, they won't let us go. Mu Tianyang said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyang, you bastard, I'll fight with you. Mu Qing was furious. He secretly shouted and was ready to pounce on Qin Feiyang. In fact, he had long noticed that Qin Feiyang had been following them. He had also carefully considered the reason why Qin Feiyang had followed them. Originally, he had thought that Qin Feiyang was looking for an opportunity to seize the Black Dragon's divine soul. But who would have thought that he would have such a plan? You? Qin Feiyang's face was full of disdain. Stop. Mu Tianyang also frowned and shouted. Ancestor. Mu Qing said angrily in her mind. Don't you know Qin Feiyang's methods? Not to mention you, even I don't have the confidence. Mu Tianyang secretly glared at Mu Qing and transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyang, how did you provoke these ferocious beasts? I didn't provoke them. Qin Feiyang shook his head. If you didn't provoke them, would they chase after you? Mu Tianyang said angrily. Maybe she thinks I'm handsome. Qin Feiyang touched his chin and said with a smile. To hell with it. Mu Tianyang was so angry that his nose was crooked. Qin Feiyang chuckled and looked at Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing. He said in surprise, your cultivation has improved too quickly. Mu Tianyang was actually a perfect war god now. And Mu Qing had also stepped into the initial stage of war god. These two seemed to have only come to the ancient world half a year earlier than him. And at that time, Mu Tianyang's cultivation was only at the initial stage of war god. In half a year, he had broken through 2 small realms in a row. I'm not as merciful as you. In the past half a year, in order to increase my strength and obtain soul stones, I've slaughtered many wealthy families. Mu Tianyang secretly snorted. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said in disgust, you really haven't changed at all. Change? Why should I change? This world has always been so cruel. If you don't kill me, I'll kill you. Mu Tianyang sneered. Qin Feiyang glanced at him, rolled his eyes, and gave Mu Tianyang a bear hug affectionately. He said gratefully, good brother, you're really loyal. You're actually helping us delay them. Thank you. We'll leave first. His voice was especially loud. After saying that, he let go of Mu Tianyang and led Fire Lotus and the others to use the Xing formula again. In an instant, they left Mu Tianyang and the other 2 behind. Bastard, bastard. Mu Qing was so angry that she stomped her feet. Qin Feiyang's words were obviously said deliberately for the beasts behind them to hear. What? How dare you threaten to delay us? Human, you're really courting death. Those half-step divine lord ferocious beasts were immediately enraged and charged towards Mu Tianyang crazily. Although Mu Tianyang had a heaven-defying divine artifact in hand, his speed was not as fast as Qin Feiyang. He was chased by those ferocious beasts very soon. Mu Qing turned his head to stare at those ferocious beasts and roared angrily, I already said that we have nothing to do with them. Why are you guys so relentless? In the face of danger, you don't even acknowledge your brother. You're really useless, human. The group of ferocious beasts had looks of disdain. This temper of mine, Mu Qing gnashed his teeth and flew into a rage. It was fine if they did not believe him, but they even mocked him instead. This was intolerable. A loud and clear voice suddenly rang out from behind the beast horde, quickly finished them off. Hearing this, the beast tide immediately bared its fangs and pounced towards the 3 of them. Mu Tianyang glanced at the back of the beast tide, killing intent surging in his eyes. Guasweki frowned and said, young Master Mu, you can't make a move. Otherwise, it'll benefit Jiang Haotian. Then you tell me what I should do? Mu Tianyang said angrily. If one could enter the spatial divine object or be able to activate the legendary altar, then they could still avoid these ferocious beasts. But the test's rules did not allow it. Guosweki fell silent, fear towards Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang involuntarily welling up in her heart. Firstly, it was Mu Tianyang scheming against Qin Feiyang. And now, it was Qin Feiyang scheming against Mu Tianyang again. These two people's means were all too terrifying. A moment of carelessness and they would fall into eternal damnation. Mu Tianyang roared, "Retreat!" Mu Qing and Guosweki shuddered and immediately retreated explosively. "You guys found the wrong person. I, Mu Tianyang, am not someone that you mere ants can offend." Mu Tianyang swept his gaze over those ferocious beasts pouncing over, his eyes suffused with a shocking light. Accompanied by a clanging sound, the blood blade appeared. Mu Tianyang grabbed the blood blade and charged straight into the beast tide. That ostentatious posture, that terrifying aura, was simply unstoppable. Even half-step divine lord ferocious beasts could only be slaughtered in front of the blood blade. Guosweki looked at the blood blade in horror and muttered, "Mu Qing, just what level of divine weapon is that? Don't worry about that. You just need to know that with this blood blade, no one can threaten us." Mu Qing said proudly. But just as he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang's figure involuntarily appeared in his mind. The arrogance on his face also immediately dissipated, replaced by a look of displeasure. In the distance, on top of a mountain, Qin Feiyang and his group stood side by side. Amazing, amazing. Nia Yun and Hui Yi looked at Mu Tianyang and were also dumbfounded. They never thought that the northern region would have such a terrifying person. Hui Yi asked, "Brother Jiang, do you really know him? If I don't know him, why would I use him to deal with those ferocious beasts?" Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. "He's really not simple." Nia Yun shook his head. On the surface, he was paying attention to Mu Tianyang, but in fact, he was glancing at Qin Feiyang's group of 4. "But I'm curious, why would a beast tide suddenly appear?" Qin Feiyang frowned, turned his head to look at Nia Yun, and asked, "Brother Nia, do you know?" "Me?" Nia Yun was taken aback and said helplessly, "How would I know? Moreover, it's normal for a beast tide to appear in this heavenly dragon mountain range. After all, this is the base camp of the ferocious beasts." "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Mu Tianyang again. Nia Yun secretly breathed a sigh of relief, then glanced at Qin Feiyang's group of 4. Seeing that all 4 of them were paying attention to the battlefield, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Suddenly, he took a step back and raised his hands at lightning speed. Divine power gushed out from his palms and slapped towards Qin Feiyang and Hui Yi's heads. He thought that Qin Feiyang's group of 4 were unprepared. He thought that he would definitely succeed. But he didn't see that the moment he stepped back, the corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth immediately raised. Following that, he rolled up Hui Yi, Fire Lotus, and Qin Rushuang, and disappeared from Nia Yun's sight in a flash. Nia Yun's hands missed, and his face suddenly stiffened. "Surprised?" A mocking voice came from behind him. Nia Yun's heart trembled, and he quickly turned around, only to see Qin Feiyang's group of 4 standing opposite him, their eyes full of ridicule. Only Hui Yi was frowning. Because he still didn't know that Nia Yun was also a pawn bribed by Feng Yuan. Nia Yun stared at Qin Feiyang, and said in a deep voice, "When did you find out?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "When I first saw you." "Impossible. I didn't reveal any flaws at all." Nia Yun said. "Didn't reveal any flaws?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "That's just what you think is infallible." Nia Yun's heart trembled. "Remember when I killed Cripple and the others? At that time, One-Eyed Man and the fierce ghost Sea of Qi were destroyed by me. If it was anyone else, they would definitely kill them first, but the person you killed first was the girl. Why is that? Because you shot that arrow, not really to kill the girl, but to kill me. At the same time, it was also to create an opportunity for the three of them to escape. Am I right? Qin Feiyang smiled and said. This matter must be said that he discovered it himself, otherwise it would implicate Gongzi Feng. Because Gongzi Feng was not an idiot. If he said now that he knew Nia Yun's purpose, Gongzi Feng would definitely think that someone had tipped him off. And with Gongzi Feng's ability and connections, it would be easy to find out who had tipped him off. After all, not many people knew about this plan. Nia Yun was extremely shocked and he heard Qin Feiyang's words. Later, after seeing my strength, you felt that it was too dangerous to confront me directly, so you thought of a plan. You traveled with us, approached us, and slowly looked for an opportunity. And along the way, you worked hard to open the way in front, so that we could completely trust you. But you didn't know that what you thought was flawless was actually full of loopholes. Because on the way, I noticed several times that you wanted to sneak attack us from behind. But every time, I was able to easily resolve it. And those seemingly inadvertent actions were also deliberately shown by me. Because you still have value, we still need you to open the way for us, so I don't want to get rid of you so early. Let's put it this way. If you hadn't made a move just now, I would still pretend that I didn't know and let you do whatever you want. Qin Feiyang smiled again. Chapter 1980. Nia Yun looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. Initially, he thought that Qin Feiyang was a simple-minded person when he suggested that they travel together, and Qin Feiyang agreed without hesitation. However, he did not expect that it was all an act. Instead, he was the one who was fooled. Amazing, amazing. I truly did not expect you to be such a difficult person to deal with. All of a sudden, Nia Yun laughed loudly. His expression was calm, and there was no trace of fear or dread. Thank you for the compliment. However, I'm puzzled. I have no grievances with you in the past. Why are you plotting against me? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. By asking this question, Feng Yuan could completely dispel the idea of someone leaking information to him. I can't stand how arrogant and despotic you were in the treasure pavilion. Is that reason enough? Nia Yun said with a smile. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. Now, do you want me to do it or do you want to end your own life? Since Nia Yun did not want to tell the truth, there was no need to continue asking. End my own life? Nia Yun was stunned for a moment before bursting into laughter again. Jiang Haotian, you can't possibly think that I'm as easy to deal with as Cripple and the others, right? Continue. Qin Feiyang crossed his arms and smiled. Clang. Nia Yun waved his hand and the golden bow appeared. Divine light shone in all directions as he looked at Qin Feiyang arrogantly. Do you know what grade this is? Just tell me and see if you can scare me. Qin Feiyang smiled. You're indeed a newborn calf that isn't afraid of tigers. Listen up, this bow is called the Sun Extinguishing Divine Bow. It's a pinnacle-grade divine weapon. Nia Yun said proudly. Pinnacle-grade divine weapon? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He turned to look at Fire Lotus and Qin Rushwang and asked suspiciously, is a pinnacle-grade divine weapon strong? Can it compare to Mu Tianyang's blood blade? When Fire Lotus and Qin Rushwang heard that, they immediately burst into laughter. This guy really had a talent for playing dumb. Fortunately, they knew Qin Feiyang. Otherwise, they would have been fooled by Qin Feiyang's current appearance. Cough, cough. Brother, this pinnacle-grade divine weapon is beyond supreme grade. It's very strong. Huo Lian coughed dryly and began to explain seriously. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization and turned to look at the Sun Destroyer divine bow in shock. Seeing Qin Feiyang's ignorance, Nia Yun was really pleased. However, Qin Feiyang suddenly bared his teeth and laughed mischievously. I want this divine bow. What? Nia Yun was with him. He wanted the Sun Extinguishing Divine Bow. Was he dreaming? Was? Whoosh. However, when he came back, he was that. Immediately, his eyelids twitched. Divine power rolled out. While reviving the Sun Destroyer Bao, he teleported away. Because he knew that Qin Feiyang must be behind him now. Do you know how the cripple died? Now, I'll let you experience it. But at the same time, an awe-inspiring voice rang out. Qin Feiyang used the walk formula and caught up with Niayun. He raised his arm and his index finger landed on the back of Niayun's head. Immediately after, Niayun felt a terrifying murderous aura suddenly erupting from the fingertip. Immediately, deep in his heart, a deep fear emerged. Boom! The next moment, his head exploded in the void. His divine soul was also annihilated on the spot. It appeared again. It's a complete instant kill. Ninth Heaven Palace. The major figures in the hall were in an uproar again. Everyone's face was full of disbelief. And this time, everyone caught the murderous aura. They were all thinking, what exactly was this murderous aura? And Feng Yuan's face was undoubtedly even uglier. First, the cripple was killed in an instant, then those fierce beasts were cleverly avoided by this child, and now even Niayun died in the hands of this child. As for the other people, they were now in the Sky Dragon Mountain range and couldn't even protect themselves, let alone kill this child. In other words, all the arrangements he made were in vain. Why was this person so difficult to deal with? Fortunately, there was another arrangement, otherwise he couldn't do anything to this child. You can be proud first. The crime of slandering Ninth Heaven Palace is already irrefutable. When you reach Ninth Heaven Palace, you will know that you will never escape from my palm. Feng Yuan secretly sneered. At the peak of the mountain, Hui Yi looked at Niayun's corpse, the corner of his mouth twitching constantly. Even the son of the Star River City Lord was directly killed without any hesitation. This guy was really crazy. But Qin Feiyang's expression didn't change at all, as if he had done an extremely ordinary thing. Qin Rushwang and Fire Lotus were the same. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and grabbed the Sun Destroyer Divine Bao. Qin Rushwang also stepped forward and took the Qian Kuan ring from Niayun's hand. It is indeed a peak-grade divine weapon, you have really given me a good treasure. After dripping blood on it, Qin Feiyang observed the Sun Destroyer Divine Bao for a while and a bright smile appeared on his face. Hui Yi hurriedly ran in front of Qin Feiyang and stared at the Sun Destroyer Divine Bao. He said, Brother Jiang, everyone has a share. Do it yourself, and you will have ample food and clothing. Qin Feiyang laughed. Me? Look at my strength, how can I defeat a perfect realm of war? Hui Yi said with a crying face. You really know how to pretend. Qin Feiyang muttered to himself and didn't bother to pay attention to him. He looked at Qin Rushwang and asked, how is it? Not bad, not bad. He has at least 60,000 soul stones in his Qian Kuan ring. And I estimate that there are 70 to 80 million divine gems. Qin Rushwang said happily. Fire Lotus said in surprise, doesn't that mean we have become rich overnight? There is nothing wrong with that. Qin Rushwang laughed and threw the Qian Kuan ring to Qin Feiyang. She said meaningfully, aren't there a few more? We can't let them go so easily. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He raised his head and looked at Qin Rushwang. He smiled and said, indeed, we can't let them go. Hui Yi glanced at the three of them and snorted with dissatisfaction, Brother Jiang, you are so dishonest. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. He put the Qian Kuan ring into his chest pocket, but in fact, he had sent it to the ancient castle. He then turned around and looked at Mu Tianyang again. Qin Rushwang said, I think those people have been following us. Now, they should be behind the beast tide. I know. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked away from Mu Tianyang to Mu Qing. Why are you looking at them? Qin Rushwang was suspicious. Don't you think this is a good opportunity? Qin Feiyang whispered. What opportunity? Qin Rushwang was puzzled. Now that Mu Tianyang is surrounded by the beast tide, he can't take care of Mu Qing. And because of the rules of the assessment, Mu Qing can't enter the space divine item either. So now is the best time to deal with him. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. He activated the concealment technique and the four of them disappeared immediately. At the same time, Mu Qing and Guosweki stood in the void, watching Mu Tianyang. However, if one looked closely, one would find that there was a strange light in Mu Qing's eyes. Seeing that Qin Feiyang and the others were approaching, Mu Qing lifted the corner of her mouth. She grabbed Guosweki and teleported toward Mu Tianyang. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Did he find us? Fire Lotus was surprised. Jiang Haotian, is this interesting? Mu Qing flew for a distance and stopped in the void. She turned around and looked at Qin Feiyang and sneered. He really found us? Hua Yi was surprised. Sure enough, we can't underestimate him. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. In this situation, Mu Qing must have been using the all-seeing eye to spy on his whereabouts. The all-seeing eye was one of the top 10 fighting souls. The concealment technique couldn't escape his detection. Forget it. Qin Feiyang decisively gave up the idea of killing Mu Qing. He led the three of them around the beast tide and looked for Zhang Yunfei and the others. Mu Tianyang was in a frenzy. He was bathed in the blood of the beasts and the corpses were piled up like a mountain. Those war god-level vicious beasts didn't dare to approach. Even the half-step divine lord vicious beasts were cowering in fear. Useless trash. Get lost. I'll deal with him myself. With a few deafening roars of anger, four ferocious beasts rushed out from the back of the beast tide. They were a black panther, a golden eagle, a black wolf, and a spotted python. The largest one was the spotted python, which was a few hundred meters long. When the four divine beasts appeared, the heavens and earth trembled. The beasts roared in all directions. The beast tide that surrounded Mu Tianyang also retreated in fear. Ancestor, their aura has surpassed that of a half-step Sir God. Be careful. Mu Qing's pupils contracted and she hurriedly sent a voice transmission. Mu Tianyang took a deep breath and divine power surged out. The blood blade in his hand started to emit streaks of bloody light. Obviously, he was going to revive the blood blade. This scene was also seen by Qin Feiyang and the others. Their expressions were also quite shocked. Fire Lotus snorted and said, "For Sir God-level beasts. Feng Yuan really thinks highly of us. The aura of these four beasts seems to be comparable to Guyong's. They should be at least small success Sir God level. Even Mu Tianyang would be at a disadvantage. Of course, if the blood blade fully revives, it would be a different story." Qin Feiyang laughed. Fully reviving? He shouldn't be able to do it yet, right? After all, the divine power needed for such a heaven-defying divine artifact is incomparable to other divine artifacts. Unless the blood blade revives itself. Qin Rushwang thought. I'm not sure about that. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Whether it was Chang Shua or the ancient castle, he had never truly revived them. The same went for the ancestor demons Snowflake and Mu Tianyang's blood blade. Every time these heaven-defying divine artifacts displayed their full power, they would revive themselves. Perhaps. With the cultivation of the god of war, it was impossible to fully revive these divine artifacts. And the standard for full revival was the power of the laws. Don't worry about him. Hurry up and find those four people. Qin Rushwang came back to her senses and urged Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang nodded and hid in the void as he started a carpet search. Not long later, they discovered four figures on top of a mountain peak. 3 men and a girl. Who else could it be but Li Gui and the others? They are indeed tailing us. Qin Rushuang murmured as a murderous intent appeared in her eyes. Chapter 1981. The four of them stood at the top of the mountain and concealed their aura. They looked at the beast tide and Mu Tianyang in front of them with deep shock on their faces. With his own strength, he could actually clash with such a terrifying beast tide. Moreover, there were 4 monarch god-level beast emperors. This person's means were also terrifying. First, there was Jiang Haotian. Now, there was the even more terrifying Mu Tianyang. Most importantly, they were unknown in the past. Who exactly were these 2 people? Qin Feiyang smiled and said telepathically, "Brother Hua, don't say that I'm not honest. The opportunity is right in front of you. Quickly make your move." Me? Hua Yi was stunned. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Brother Jiang, aren't you making things difficult for me? Still hiding?" Fire Lotus and Qin Rushuang raised their eyebrows. It seemed that this person did not want to show his true strength. That's not right. The 4 girls must have a lot of soul stones. But he's still holding back and not making his move. Qin Dage, Sister Rushuang, don't you think this is strange? It feels like he doesn't care about these soul stones at all. Fire Lotus said telepathically. That's right. This person isn't even afraid of the black dragon. Why would he be afraid of these people? Qin Rushuang raised her eyebrows. There's only one explanation. This person doesn't lack soul stones. Perhaps his true identity is even more shocking than Nye Yun's. Qin Feiyang said to himself. Then why is he following us like this? Does he have the same intentions as Nye Yun? Fire Lotus was suspicious. Who knows? However, the feeling he gives me is the same as before. There's a hint of familiarity amidst the unfamiliarity. Qin Feiyang said telepathically. Why don't we just find a chance to control him and read his memories? Qin Rushuang suggested. His cultivation is higher than mine. I can't control him. Besides, although we all know that he's hiding his strength, we don't know how much he's hiding. What if he's stronger than us? So, let's not take the risk and wait and see. Similarly, if he doesn't have any ill intentions, then if we expose him, it will instead break the current balance. Perhaps when the time comes, it will backfire. Qin Feiyang thought. All right then. Hurry up and get rid of them. Let's continue our journey. Qin Rushuang transmitted her voice. Qin Feiyang nodded and led the 3 to the foot of the mountain. He said in a low voice, "Wait for me here." With that, he flew towards the peak of the mountain alone. It's great to have a concealment technique. Hua Yi was endlessly envious. Those who don't lack soul stones are even better. Fire Lotus said. You don't lack soul stones? Hua Yi was stunned. He suspiciously looked at the Fire Lotus and asked, who doesn't lack soul stones? Who knows? Fire Lotus shrugged. On the mountain peak. As they watched Mu Tianyang battle the 4 beast emperors, the 4 girls grew increasingly shocked. There was also a strong sense of greed in their eyes. The reason why Mu Tianyang could collide with the beast tide and fight the 4 beast emperors was entirely because of that bloody blade. They were also people who had seen the world. Therefore, they could judge that the bloody blade was at least a divine weapon that surpassed the peak level. Who wouldn't be tempted by such a divine weapon? Therefore, they all wanted to snatch it and take it for themselves. However, they didn't know that a crisis was approaching at this moment. I say, the 4 of you, don't keep looking in front. Pay attention to your back. A laugh suddenly rang out. Following that, One-Eyed Dragon and Baleful Ghost screamed as their heads exploded like watermelons. What? Seeing this scene, the girl and Zhang Yunfei's expressions changed and they immediately turned around to look. But in the void in front of them, there wasn't even a shadow. What's going on? The 2 of them were bewildered. I've already said that you must pay attention to your back. Why didn't you listen? Qin Feiyang's voice rang out again. And it was right behind their ears. The two of them felt their hair stand on end. They immediately realized that it was the concealment technique. Boom! The two of them released their divine power. But just as they released their divine power, they suddenly felt that something had poked the back of their heads. Following that, two murderous auras appeared. The next moment, the two of them screamed in despair as their heads exploded. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. When the corpses of the two men fell to the ground, Qin Feiyang also revealed himself. He lowered his head and looked at the four corpses. His expression didn't change at all. Then, he bent down and took the 4 Qian Kuan rings. After binding them with blood, he carefully examined them. Whoosh! Hua Yi, Fire Lotus, and Qin Rushwang also flew up. Looking at the headless corpses on the ground, Fire Lotus and Qin Rushwang's expressions didn't change at all. But Hua Yi's mouth twitched violently. 4 perfect realm war gods were killed in seconds just like that. They died without any value. After a while, Qin Feiyang withdrew his gaze and looked at Qin Rushwang and Hua Yi with a smile on his face. How is it? Qin Rushwang asked. A total of 200,000 soul stones. There are even more divine gems. At least 300 million in total. Not including the herbs and elixirs. Qin Feiyang smiled. 200,000. Qin Rushwang and Fire Lotus looked at each other. 200,000 soul stones. Including Miayun and Cripple, they had obtained a total of 300,000 soul stones. This unexpected wealth was really exciting. Qin Rushwang came back to her senses and urged, let's go, let's go. There are still 100,000 soul stones waiting for us. Fire Lotus covered her mouth and laughed, Sister Rushwang, it's not just 100,000 soul stones. There are also peak divine skills and divine weapons. Yes, yes, yes. This assessment was really worth it. Qin Rushwang was so happy that she forgot about home. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He secretly sent the Qian Kuan rings to the ancient castle. Then, he went around the beast tide and headed straight for the hinterland. As for Mu Tianyang, he was not in the mood to care. It would be best if he died under the beast tide. 9th Heaven Palace. Inside the palace. These two young people are really terrifying. Especially this Jiang Haotian. Not only did he easily change the target of the beast tied to Mu Tianyang, but he also saw through Niayun's disguise and obtained so many soul stones. The biggest winner of this assessment is undoubtedly him. It's a pity, yes. What a pity. If he didn't slander 9th Heaven Palace, he would be a talent worth nurturing. The group was filled with regret. Mu Tianyang is not bad either. That blood blade, according to my judgment, should be a legendary divine weapon. And his brain is not much worse than Jiang Haotian's. We can nurture him with all our might. Someone else said. However, they did not know that the blood blade had not fully recovered yet. The black-haired old man scanned the crowd and suddenly said, you all only paid attention to Jiang Haotian and Mu Tianyang. Did you not notice that young man called Mu Qing? Mu Qing. The group raised their heads and looked at Mu Qing, who was standing beside Guosweki, with puzzlement in their eyes. When Jiang Haotian was in stealth mode, even we didn't know where he was. However, this Mu Qing was able to discover his location at the first moment. And I also found a problem. From the start of the assessment until now, Jiang Haotian's whereabouts seemed to be under the control of this Mu Qing. Isn't this strange? The black-haired old man said. It seems to be the case. How did he do it? Everyone started discussing. This Mu Qing, although his strength and methods are not as good as Mu Tianyang's, according to this old man's observation, Jiang Haotian seems to be afraid of this person. The black-haired old man said thoughtfully. Everyone looked at Mu Qing again, and the expression in their eyes changed. The black-haired old man said, "In addition, this old man has a question in his heart." "What question?" Everyone was suspicious. "This old man has a feeling that whether it is Nia Yun's group of 6 or the beast tide, they are all targeting Jiang Haoyan. And this old man has a feeling that someone is manipulating all of this behind the scenes." The black-haired old man said. Hearing this, the others were puzzled. But Feng Yuan's eyes trembled slightly. The black-haired old man said again, "And why do Nia Yun's group of 6 have so many soul stones?" First Elder, as the son of the city lord of Star Sea City, it is not strange that Nia Yun has tens of thousands of soul stones on him, right? Feng Yuan could not sit still and looked at the black-haired old man. Nia Yun is not strange, but what about the other 5? More importantly, the number of soul stones on them is so similar. This gives this old man the feeling that someone gave them the same number of soul stones before the assessment. The black-haired old man said. Feng Yuan could not help but panic. The black-haired old man pondered for a while and said, "The more this old man thinks about it, the more strange it is. After the assessment is over, not only do we have to investigate Mu Tianyang's identity, but also the cause of the beast tide." Speaking of this, the black-haired old man looked at a purple-clothed woman below and said, "Shangguan Fenglan, this matter will be handed over to the law enforcement hall." "Yes." The purple-clothed woman stood up and responded respectfully. Feng Yuan glanced at the purple-clothed woman and then at the black-haired old man. A cold light flashed in the depths of his old eyes. Back to Qin Feiyang and the others. Avoiding one monarch god-level beast after another, they finally arrived at the hinterland in the evening. Along the way, they could be said to be treading on thin ice and did not dare to be careless for a moment. Because there were too many monarch god-level beasts. The 4 of them stopped at the top of a mountain and scanned the front. Qin Feiyang secretly said, "There is still a distance to 9th Heaven Palace, we must be especially careful." This hinterland was even more terrifying. Monarch god-level beasts were everywhere. If they were not careful, their lives would be in danger. Fire Lotus and Qin Rushuang nodded. Hua Yi chuckled and said, "Let me lead the way. I promise to bring you to 9th Heaven Palace safely." "You?" The 3 of them looked at Hua Yi in surprise. "Yes. Along the way, I haven't done anything. I have to show some value, otherwise, how shameful would it be?" Hua Yi said. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed, saying, "All right, next, we will listen to you. Let's go. Follow me." Hua Yi called out and plunged into the forest below. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 looked at each other and followed closely behind Hua Yi. In the Sky Dragon Mountain range, they definitely could not fly or teleport. Because this was equivalent to a ready-made target. Therefore, they had to use the surrounding environment as a cover to avoid being discovered by the beasts. Chapter 1982. Don't talk about it. Under Hua Yi's lead, they were able to accurately avoid the monarch god-level beasts every time. This made Qin Feiyang even more curious about Hua Yi's identity. To know so much about the Sky Dragon Mountain range, this was not something an ordinary person could do. Midnight, dawn. Qin Feiyang and the other 3 stopped and looked up at the giant peak in front of them. The giant peak towered like a sharp sword. On the peak of the mountain, clouds lingered and a stairway to heaven could be vaguely seen. That's right. That was the 9th Heaven Palace. In other words, after a long journey, they had finally completed the assessment. Swoosh. Suddenly, Qin Rushuang took the lead and rushed to the peak of the mountain. "Brother Jiang, shouldn't we trust each other more? Look at her, she's afraid that I'll beat her to it." Hua Yi's face darkened as he looked at Qin Feiyang angrily. "Don't worry, you'll get your share." Qin Feiyang smiled and also rose into the sky. If not for Hua Yi leading the way, they would not have been able to pass through the hinterland and reach the 9th Heaven Palace so easily. Hua Yi caught up and laughed. How much are you going to give me? This, Qin Feiyang was stunned and pointed at Qin Rushwang in front of him. It depends on her. Then I won't count on it. Hui pursed his lips. Qin Feiyang could not help but laugh. Swoosh. The four of them landed on the peak of the mountain one after another. Qin Rushwang was naturally the first. Looking at the stairway in front of them, the four of them were filled with emotions. At this moment, other than the white-haired old man guarding the stairway, there were only the four of them at the peak of the mountain. Obviously, they were the first group to arrive here. As for the white-haired old man, he sat cross-legged beside the stairway as usual and did not seem to notice the arrival of Qin Feiyang and the other three. Peak divine skill, peak divine weapon, 100,000 soul stones. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Fire Lotus giggled. Don't be so happy. After all, you can't cultivate even if I give you the soul stones. For you, the death fruit and the ghost wood are the most important. Qin Feiyang snickered. Fire Lotus scoffed, can't I be happy for you guys? Huh, Qin Feiyang secretly laughed and turned to look at the white-haired old man. Hui whispered, this old man's strength is terrifying. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and transmitted his voice. How much do you know about the Nine Heavens Palace? I don't know. Hui shook his head. Bullshit. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. Since he knew the Heavenly Dragon Mountain range like the back of his hand, how could he not know about the Nine Heavens Palace? I'm telling the truth. Hui looked at Qin Feiyang helplessly. Then, he looked at Qin Rushwang and smiled. Miss, it's still early. Why don't we discuss how to distribute the rewards? Qin Rushwang glanced at Hui and frowned. This has nothing to do with you, right? How is it not related? If I didn't lead the way, would you have come here so easily? Although I didn't contribute much along the way, I still deserve a share. Hui was unhappy. Qin Rushwang rolled her eyes and said, fine, I'll give you 10,000 soul stones. 10,000? That's too little. Hui chuckled. Big brother Hui, that's quite a lot. Although you led the way into the hinterland, my brother's contribution is the greatest. Fire Lotus said. That's right. If it wasn't for my little brother, you would have died a long time ago. There's something you don't know yet. Nia Yun's group and the beast horde were all ordered by Feng Yuan. Qin Rushwang transmitted her voice. What? Hui raised his eyebrows and turned to Qin Feiyang. It's true. Qin Feiyang nodded. That damn old bastard. Hui cursed and transmitted his voice. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Would telling you work? Can you resolve the beast horde? Fire Lotus asked. No. Hui shook his head. That's not right. Feng Yuan is determined to get rid of us in this assessment. However, it would appear that my brother is superior. He was able to easily resolve these dangers. Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang with admiration and chuckled. He's really good. Hui gave Qin Feiyang a thumbs up and frowned, but that Mu Tianyang, who is he? Why is he so powerful? I don't know him. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Come on. If you don't know him, why would you go and scheme against him? Hui rolled his eyes and chuckled, but this time, I really have to thank him. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to get rid of those beast horde. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Fire Lotus and Qin Rushwang, saying, you must be tired after rushing all the way here. Take a good rest. The two nodded and sat down cross-legged. They took out a divine crystal and began to absorb the energy in it to recuperate. Qin Feiyang glanced at Hui and said, Brother Hua, let's talk. Talk about what? Hui looked at him suspiciously. Who are you? Why do you want to get close to me? Of course, to show my sincerity, I will tell you my identity. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. I'm just an ordinary person. As for getting close to you, didn't I tell you earlier? I want you to help me pass the assessment. Hua Yi said. Brother Hua, that's boring. You know so much about the Sky Dragon Mountain Range and you still need my help? Qin Feiyang frowned. Hua Yi said helplessly, I'm telling the truth. Why don't you believe me? Fine. Pretend I didn't ask. But I sincerely hope that you don't have any ulterior motives. If you do, come at me. Don't hurt Fire Lotus and the others. Otherwise, I won't let you go. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Why is your heart so heavy? Hua Yi was speechless. There's nothing I can do about it. The world is so cruel. In order to survive, I have to be careful. Qin Feiyang said. Hua Yi shook his head and laughed, and said, Don't worry, I won't hurt you. That's for the best. Qin Feiyang also smiled. At the same time. 9 Heavens Palace. In a certain palace. A middle-aged man sat by the tea table, quietly sipping tea. This person was Feng Wenhai. Bang! Suddenly. The door was kicked open. A red-haired old man walked in angrily. It was Feng Yuan. Feng Wenhai was startled, put down his teacup, and asked suspiciously, Father, why are you back? Jiang Haotian and the others have already passed the assessment, is there a need to continue watching? Feng Yuan said gloomily, and sat down opposite Feng Wenhai. Looking at the tea set on the table, his face was as gloomy as water. Bastard! Suddenly. He shouted angrily and sent the tea table flying. Feng Wenhai jumped in fright and hurriedly asked, Did our plan to frame Jiang Haotian fail? The plan to frame him was very successful. Feng Yuan said. Then why are you doing this? Feng Wenhai was puzzled. Feng Yuan said in a deep voice, Although we succeeded in framing Jiang Haotian, it also aroused the suspicion of the Great Elder. What? Why would he suspect us? Feng Wenhai's face changed. No. He hasn't suspected us yet. However, he is already suspecting that there is someone behind Mia Yun's group and the Beast Tide. And he also ordered Shengguan Fenglan to investigate this matter. Feng Yuan said. Shengguan Fenglan, Feng Wenhai raised his eyebrows. Feng Yuan said, This matter can't be underestimated. Go to Sky Dragon Mountain Range immediately and kill all the beasts and people who know about it. Kill them? But now, the assessment isn't over yet? Feng Wenhai said. Don't worry, everyone has already dispersed. The Great Elder also didn't pay attention to the situation in Sky Dragon Mountain Range. But just in case, you'd better disguise yourself. Feng Yuan said. Okay. I'll go right away. Feng Wenhai nodded, got up and left in a hurry. Trash, all of you are trash. The anger in Feng Yuan's heart was really difficult to calm down. In order to bribe Mia Yun and the others, he spent a lot of soul stones, but what did he get in the end? He got nothing. He still had to do it himself. It was simply a waste of soul stones. The most infuriating thing was that these soul stones all fell into Jiang Haotian's hands in the end. Wasn't this too convenient for him? P.S. Today, 2 chapters. Chapter 1983. The night was as dark as ink. In the depths of 9 Heaven Palace, beside a small stream, there was a small courtyard. The stream flowed and was so clear that one could see the bottom. In the courtyard, there was a vegetable garden, an orchard, and an old small building. It looked like a small courtyard of an ordinary family. However, this seemingly ordinary place was actually a forbidden area of the 9 Heavens Palace. In the hall of the small building. At this moment, a black-haired old man was sitting on an old yellow chair. In front of the old man stood a young and beautiful woman in purple. First Elder, didn't you ask me to investigate the Beast Tide? Why did you call me here in private? The woman in purple looked at the black-haired old man suspiciously. Fenglan, don't you understand? I was in the meeting hall at that time. I deliberately said it for others to hear. The black-haired old man laughed hoarsely. His face was very kind. The woman in purple was stunned and puzzled. First Elder, what are you playing at? Think about it. If there is really someone behind this beast tide, then who has the ability to do so? The black-haired old man laughed. The woman in purple thought for a moment and said, there should be many people in the northern region who have the ability to organize a beast tide. There are indeed many people in the northern region who can organize such a beast tide. But we are in the Sky Dragon Mountain Range now. The Sky Dragon Mountain Range is not only the headquarters of the beasts in the northern region, but also the territory of Nine Heaven Palace. In my opinion, no one has the guts to organize a beast tide under our noses. The strangest thing is that this beast tide just happened to appear during the assessment. You also know that when Nine Heaven Palace recruits disciples, we only announce the location of the assessment on the day of the assessment. So if it was an outsider, they wouldn't have the time to organize a beast tide. The black-haired old man laughed. The purple-clothed woman was stunned. She asked in surprise, what do you mean? That's right. This is the doing of someone in Nine Heaven Palace. The black-haired old man laughed. Who is it? Why would he do this? The woman in purple was angry. The target of the beast tide is obviously Jiang Haotian. Think about it. Who in Nine Heaven Palace has a grudge with Jiang Haotian? The black-haired old man said. Grudges. The purple-clothed woman frowned. Suddenly, her eyes lit up as she looked at the black-haired old man. Feng Yuan? Yes. We've never even heard of the name Jiang Haotian before, let alone enmity. So there's only Feng Yuan. The black-haired old man smiled. He is the hall master of the Nine Heavens Palace's resource hall. Is there a need to make things difficult for a junior like this? Is it to wash away Feng Zijuan's shame? The purple-clothed woman raised her eyebrows. It is precisely because he is the hall master of our Nine Heavens Palace's resource hall that he cannot tolerate anyone humiliating his descendant. After all, this is indirectly slapping him in the face. The black-haired old man said. The purple-robed woman asked suspiciously, could it be that the matter of Jiang Haotian slandering the Nine Heavens Palace was also arranged by him? This old man is still unable to come to a conclusion on this matter. This old man asked you to come here because I want you to investigate this matter thoroughly. The black-haired old man said. The purple-clothed woman frowned and said, didn't you already send someone to investigate? The black-haired old man smiled and said, this old man doesn't trust anyone else, especially the people of the Law Enforcement Hall. Great Elder, I don't like what you said. What do you mean, especially the people of the Law Enforcement Hall? So in your eyes, the people of the Law Enforcement Hall are all Feng Yuan's minions? Then why do you still need me as the hall master? The purple-clothed woman said unhappily. Feng Lan, you are the hall master of the Law Enforcement Hall. I think you should know the situation of the Law Enforcement Hall better than this old man. Perhaps the appearance of this Jiang Haotian is an opportunity given to you by the heavens. The black-haired old man smiled. The purple-clothed woman fell silent. The black-haired old man did not say anything more and smiled. Let's take a look at the situation of the Sky Dragon Mountain Range first. If this old man is right, those beasts will definitely be killed. After saying that, the black-haired old man waved his hand and an image quickly appeared in the void in front of them. In the image, Mu Tianyang had already left. The 4 divine beasts were hiding in a nest. Their bodies were covered in wounds and their eyes were filled with fear. Obviously, they had escaped from Mu Tianyang's hands. Countless ferocious beasts had gathered in the surroundings. Their ferocious eyes were filled with fear that could not be removed. I really didn't expect that human to be so terrifying. This time we have really taken a big tumble. The golden eagle said with lingering fear. Yeah. That blood blade must be a legendary divine weapon. Speaking of which, it's all that old thing's fault for not making things clear and causing us to lose so many of our brothers. We must find him and settle this score. The three beasts said angrily. No need. I took the initiative to find you. But at this moment, a cold laugh sounded in the sky. The four beasts looked up and saw a black-clothed man in a cloak descending in the sky. Who are you? The golden eagle shouted. The person who wants your lives. The black-clothed man waved his hand and divine power poured down like a waterfall. Boom! With a loud sound, the four beast emperors and the surrounding beasts were instantly turned into ashes. Not a single one was left. Immediately after, the black-clothed man didn't stop and activated a teleportation altar to leave. In the wooden building, the black-haired old man looked at the purple-clothed woman and smiled. Fenglan, did you see that? Everything is within this old man's expectations. You really can predict things like a god. The purple-clothed woman retracted her gaze and looked at the black-haired old man. It should be said to be luring the snake out of its hole. This old man deliberately said those words in the conference hall to lure them out. After all, they were also a little scared, so killing them to silence them was inevitable. The black-haired old man smiled. Since this is a trap set by you, why didn't you wait for the rabbit to come out and catch him on the spot? The purple-clothed woman frowned. As the Grand Elder of the Nine Heavens Palace, this old man first considers the big picture. The black-haired old man said. Just because of the big picture, you let them do whatever they want? The purple-clothed woman said angrily. As a palace master, how can you say such ignorant words? Some people must be destroyed step by step, otherwise it will cause internal strife. The black-haired old man's tone was somewhat angry. The purple-clothed woman raised her eyebrows and said, then in your opinion, who was that person just now? Appearance and voice can be changed, but divine power can never be changed. Do you still need to ask this old man who he is? The black-haired old man said. The purple-clothed woman couldn't help but clench her fists. She lowered her head and pondered for a moment before saying, you just said that Zhang Haotian's appearance is a chance given to me by the heavens? And the black-haired old man nodded. Do we really have to do this? The purple-clothed woman frowned. If we don't do this, I'm afraid that your position as the palace master of the law enforcement hall will be taken away sooner or later. The black-haired old man said. But does a mere Zhang Haotian have the ability to fight with them? Even if he has the ability, aren't we just using him and harming him by doing this? The purple-clothed woman said. If he really is a talent, he will only become stronger in the face of this kind of pressure. If he isn't, then it doesn't matter if he dies. The black-haired old man chuckled. The purple-clothed woman said helplessly, forgive me for being blunt, but you're really ruthless. The black-haired old man laughed and asked, is there still no news of the Vice Palace Master's whereabouts? No. The purple-clothed woman shook her head. As the number one figure of the Nine Heaven Palace, he's always so willful and disappears whenever he wants. What a headache. The black-haired old man rubbed his forehead and said unhappily. There's nothing we can do about it. The Vice Palace Master's personality is like this. The purple-clothed woman smiled bitterly. No matter what, we have to find him as soon as possible. We have to keep an eye on him in the future. How can he be like this all the time? The black-haired old man said angrily. Okay. The purple-clothed woman nodded and said, then how should we deal with Zhang Haotian? After all, everyone knows that he's slandering our Nine Heaven Palace. Before we find out the truth, we have to do something. It'll be hard to convince everyone. You can do as you see fit. The black-haired old man said. The purple-clothed woman's face darkened and she said angrily, you're just like the Vice Palace Master. You only know how to leave everything to others. This is called the capable ones do more work. The black-haired old man laughed. The purple-clothed woman rolled her eyes and then turned around and walked out of the wooden building. She stood in the courtyard and looked at the night sky. Zhang Haotian, after muttering a few words, the purple-clothed woman disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1984. At the top of the mountain. Not far from the stairway, Qin Feiyang and Hui Yi were also sitting cross-legged on the ground, resting with their eyes closed. Time passed quietly. About 2 hours passed. Whoosh! Accompanied by the sound of breaking air, 2 men and a woman landed on the top of the mountain. It was Mu Tianyang, Mu Qing, and Guosweki. As soon as he saw Qin Feiyang, Mu Tianyang's face was filled with anger. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and said with a bright smile, "Oh, good brother, you're finally here." Hearing the words good brother, the veins on Mu Tianyang's forehead suddenly jumped. Originally, first place should have been his. But he didn't expect to be schemed against by this bastard. Although the beast tide and the 4 beast emperors didn't cause any actual harm to him, he really couldn't swallow this anger. Don't be angry. We're all brothers, what's there to be calculative about? How about this, we'll split the rewards equally. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. I don't need your pity. Mu Tianyang snorted coldly, holding back the anger in his heart. He raised his head and looked at the stairway, then his gaze fell on the white-haired old man. His pupils constricted slightly. He turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang and transmitted his voice. Do you know what Dong Xingyang told me and the demon ancestor? Qin Feiyang was taken aback and asked curiously, tell me. Mu Tianyang secretly said, he told us not to be calculative with you and to forget the previous grudges. That's not right. Qin Feiyang shook his head. What's wrong? Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows. He should have said that I'm not calculative with you, not that you're not calculative with me. Qin Feiyang secretly said. Is there a difference? Mu Tianyang was suspicious. Of course there is. He told you not to be calculative with me, which is equivalent to saying that it was all my fault in the past. But whose fault was it in the past? Qin Feiyang sneered. I don't want to argue with you about these boring things. Now, let me ask you, do you want to cooperate? Mu Tianyang thought to himself. Cooperation? Qin Feiyang was stunned. You have also seen how terrifying this ancient world is. With our current strength, it will be very difficult for us to survive. But if we join forces, we can definitely make a name for ourselves in the northern region. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. I'm sorry, but that's not where my ambition lies. Qin Feiyang said. I know that you came to the ancient world to look for Qin Badian. But the process of searching will be very difficult. Can you handle it alone? Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang said, from Iron Ox Town to today, haven't I been alone? All right. As you wish. But I'll say the ugly words first. If you don't cooperate, I will think of ways to get rid of you. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice, with a piercing chill in his words. Even if I cooperate with you, you will still get rid of me. What's the difference? Bring it on, I'll take it all. Qin Feiyang sneered. Huh, Mu Tianyang laughed secretly and didn't speak again. He also sat at the side and closed his eyes to cultivate. Mu Qing stayed by Mu Tianyang's side. As for Guosweki, she stared at Qin Feiyang, wishing she could kill him immediately. Time flew by. The sky gradually turned white. At this moment, someone finally arrived. Then, there were more people who came through the air and landed on the mountain peak. But there was no exception. Everyone was in an extremely sorry state. Some were covered in blood. Some were missing arms and legs. Some were so weak that they needed the support of their companions. However, those who were able to arrive here within the stipulated time were definitely not ordinary people. Their cultivations were basically all at the perfection war god realm. There were also a few perfect war god. Jiang Haotian? He actually arrived before us? What's going on? Isn't he only at the level of a low-level war god? Who is that purple-clothed youth? When the people who arrived saw Qin Feiyang in Mu Tianyang's group, their faces were filled with disbelief. At the same time, They were also extremely disappointed. There was only one reward: first come, first served. Now that Qin Feiyang's group had arrived before them, the reward had nothing to do with them. The only thing worth celebrating was that they survived. Gradually, 200 to 300 people gathered on the mountain peak. The sun had also risen and shone on the earth. It's almost time, but only these few people have made it to the Nine Heavens Palace alive. This test is truly extraordinarily cruel. Fire Lotus had already woken up. She looked at the sun in the sky and sighed. This is the Sky Dragon Mountain Range. In the past assessments, at least 700 people passed. At most, there were 2,000 to 3,000 people. And this time, there are only 200 to 300 people. However, not everyone will die in the Sky Dragon Mountain Range. Hua Yi said. What do you mean? Fire Lotus was suspicious. Hua Yi said, do you still remember the token that the old man gave us when we registered? Fire Lotus nodded. Once the assessment ends, this token will automatically shatter and turn into a force that will send those who did not pass the assessment out of the Sky Dragon Mountain Range. So, as long as they don't try to be brave and hide somewhere, they can keep their lives. Hua Yi laughed. So that's how it is. Fire Lotus nodded in realization and asked, then our tokens will also shatter? Yes. Hua Yi took out the black token and whispered, it should be shattering soon. I wonder if anyone else is coming? Qin Rushwang scanned the crowd and said, Feiyang, I don't seem to see Gao Xiaowei. Gao Xiaowei? Qin Feiyang was stunned and scanned the crowd. In the past 2 days, because of the entanglement with Nia Yun and the others, and meeting Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing, he had completely forgotten about this woman. In the crowd, he really did not find Gao Xiaowei. Gao Xiaowei is just a beginner martial immortal. Although the young master asked someone to take care of her, I'm afraid she's not going to make it. Qin Rushwang said to herself. Life and death is up to fate. Qin Feiyang sighed. He had done enough for Gao Xiaowei and Gao Xiaolong, this pair of brother and sister. He had a clear conscience. As for what will happen in the future, let nature take its course. Crack. Suddenly, the token in Hua Yi's hand shattered into pieces with a crisp sound. This also meant that the time was up. Qin Feiyang and the others took out their tokens, which were also shattered. But at this moment, 6 figures rushed over and landed on the mountain peak. Qin Feiyang looked over and a smile crept onto his face. Of the 6 people, 5 were men and only 1 was a woman. The 5 men were all at the perfect war god realm, and their bodies were all riddled with wounds. The woman was only a beginner martial immortal. It was Gao Xiaowei. Fire Lotus laughed. To be able to take care of Gao Xiaowei and pass the test, it seems like the 5 of them are not simple. If they were simple, the young master wouldn't have asked them to take care of Gao Xiaowei. Qin Feiyang smiled. At the same time, Gao Xiaowei bent over and placed her hands on her knees. She stood behind the 5 men, panting like a cow. But her face was filled with joy. She finally made it. From now on, she will be a disciple of the Nine Heavens Palace. I wonder if Big Brother Jiang passed the test? She took a deep breath and looked up at the crowd. Soon, she saw Qin Feiyang and the others in the crowd. He also passed. It makes sense. Big Brother Jiang is so strong, it would be strange if he didn't pass. But she did not greet Qin Feiyang and the others because she was afraid of attracting attention. Little sister Xiaowei, are you happy? After the 5 men calmed down, they took the healing pills and turned to Gao Xiaowei with a smile. Happy. I never thought that I would become a disciple of the Nine Heavens Palace. Thank you so much. I've been a burden to you all the way here. Otherwise, you would have come here long ago. Gao Xiaowei looked at the 5 men with an apologetic face. It's okay. After all, we're all on the same side. What I'm curious about is, who was the first to come here? The 5 men scanned the crowd, their eyes filled with suspicion. The reward for the first place was what everyone wanted, but there was only one spot. Who would be the lucky one? Gao Xiaowei glanced at Qin Feiyang again. Could it be this man? Boom! Suddenly, a terrifying aura descended. On the stairway to heaven, a middle-aged man in black with a cold face walked down step by step. Feng Wenhai. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a cold light. In order to get rid of him, Feng Yuan and Feng Wenhai, this pair of father and son, could be said to have schemed. Sooner or later, he would find these two to get back at him. 10 breaths later, Feng Wenhai stopped at a third of the way up the staircase. He stood on the stairs and looked down at the people on the mountain peak. A moment later, a smile appeared on his face as he nodded. Not bad. Even in the Sky Dragon Mountain range, there are 312 people who passed the test. I believe that after this training, each of you will have limitless achievements in the future. Hearing these words of praise, everyone beamed with joy. But don't be too proud. Because in our 9 Heavens Palace, the only thing we don't lack is geniuses. Only by working hard and fighting can you become a person above others. Feng Wenhai changed the topic and said, "We will remember elders' teachings." Everyone bowed and replied. Then, I now announce that everyone here is officially a member of the 9 Heavens Palace. Feng Wenhai shouted. I'm a disciple of the 9 Heavens Palace. No one will dare to look down on me in the future. My efforts in the past 2 days were worth it. The peak was suddenly in an uproar. Some people were even crying tears of joy. Gao Xiaowei was one of them. Feng Wenhai did not disturb them. Because this kind of scene could be seen every year. Although he was not a good person, he could understand everyone's feelings at this moment. A moment later, Feng Wenhai raised his hands and said with a smile, "Everyone, please be quiet." The peak instantly fell into a dead silence. Feng Wenhai said, "Next, I will announce the first place of this test." Hearing this, everyone held their breaths and their eyes were filled with anticipation. Feng Wenhai looked around and suddenly pointed at Qin Rushwang in the crowd and said with a smile, "The first place of this test is her, Jiang Rushwang." What? It's her. I heard that this woman is Jiang Haotian's sister. How did she do it? A beginner divine warrior can be the first to come to the 9 Heavens Palace? Of course, she must have Jiang Haotian's help. Even with Jiang Haotian's help, it's impossible. After all, Jiang Haotian is only a beginner divine warrior. Everyone discussed and their faces were filled with disbelief. Chapter 1985. They could accept it if it was a perfection war god getting first place. But it was hard to accept that it was just a beginner war god. Although it's a bit ridiculous, it's the truth. Even the great elder of the 9 Heaven Palace saw it with his own eyes. Feng Wenhai smiled. I didn't expect it to be them even in my dreams. Everyone sighed endlessly, feeling sour in their hearts. What right did a beginner war god have to get this reward? To put it bluntly, they were jealous and felt it was unfair. Qin Feiyang and the others didn't care about these people's gazes. They just wanted to get the reward as soon as possible. But, suddenly, Feng Wenhai's tone changed abruptly. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other and suspiciously looked at Feng Wenhai. The others also looked at Feng Wenhai and waited for him to continue. Because during the exam, the 9 Heaven Palace found out about Jiang Haotian and the others' evil deeds, so Qin Rushwang's reward is cancelled. Feng Wenhai shouted and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others with a hint of mockery in his eyes. What? Cancelled? Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qin were also shocked. As for Qin Feiyang and the others, their faces suddenly sank. And not only is the reward cancelled, but the higher-ups also ordered us to kill Jiang Haotian, Jiang Rushwang, Jiang Fire Lotus, and Hui Yi on the spot. Feng Wenhai shouted again and the murderous intent in his eyes was undisguised. What? Kill on the spot? What is going on? Evil deeds? What kind of evil deeds made the Nine Heaven Palace want to kill them? Everyone was shocked to the extreme. The expressions of Qin Feiyang and the other three also turned dull. Kill on the spot? What was going on? Although they had humiliated Feng Zijuan and offended Feng Yuan and Feng Wenhai, they had never even seen the higher-ups of the Nine Heaven Palace. Why would they give such an order? Stunned. The four of them were completely stupefied. Mu Tianyang was standing beside Qin Feiyang. He glanced at Qin Feiyang with schadenfreude before raising his head to look at Sun Dehai. He asked suspiciously, "Elder, what did they do wrong? They're slandering our Nine Heavens Palace behind our backs, ruining our reputation. How can we tolerate such heinous crimes?" Feng Wenhai shouted angrily. Slandering Nine Heaven Palace? Mu Tianyang was stunned. Mu Qin glanced at Qin Feiyang and said, "Ancestor, this isn't something Qin Feiyang would do, right? He has no enmity with Nine Heavens Palace, how could he do such a thing? There must be something fishy going on here." Mu Tianyang thought to himself. I see. This kind of trash wants to enter Nine Heavens Palace? What a delusion. He deserves to die. However, the others were not familiar with Qin Feiyang's character. They did not have any doubts and believed it on the spot. They all stared at Qin Feiyang and the other three with righteous indignation. Hui glanced at the gazes of the people around him and said, "Brother Jiang, what's going on?" "How would I know?" Qin Feiyang was furious. This was completely out of his expectations. In fact, he had thought that Feng Wenhai would make things difficult for him after the assessment. However, he did not expect that Feng Wenhai would be so vicious as to directly target their lives. Slandering us. An angry shout suddenly rang out. It was Qin Rushwang. She stared at Feng Wenhai with a gloomy expression. Slandering us? I didn't wrongly accuse you in this matter. That's because it was personally investigated by the first elder. Feng Wenhai said coldly, but his eyes were full of sneers. Let's see how you can jump around now. We didn't do it at all. Ask the great elder to come out. I want to confront him face to face. Qin Rushwang said angrily. How dare you? Who is the great elder? Is he someone a nobody like you can see? Feng Wenhai shouted. Even if he's a big shot, he can't be unreasonable and slander us. Qin Rushwang shouted. She was completely furious. It was not easy to get first place and the reward was in their hands. However, they were suddenly accused of such a groundless crime. They even wanted to kill them? This was simply unreasonable. You're rebelling. You actually dared to scold the first elder in front of so many people. You're really hopeless. Feng Wenhai was furious and shouted angrily. You, Qin Rushwang was about to speak again. Calm down. Qin Feiyang stopped her and looked up at Feng Wenhai. He said indifferently, Elder Feng, I don't want to say much. I only want to give you a word of advice. God is watching what people do. Those despicable people will suffer retribution sooner or later. Let's go. With that, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and turned to leave. Feng Wenhai, you've gone too far this time. Hui looked at Feng Wenhai and shook his head in disappointment. He also turned to leave. Just you wait. We won't let this go so easily. Qin Rushwang and Fire Lotus also sneered and turned to chase after Qin Feiyang. They still dare to be so arrogant? Feng Wenhai was a little stunned. These few people were really fearless. In terms of courage, he was sincerely impressed. This was because there was no one in the world who dared to be so arrogant in front of him in Empyrean Palace. However, they wanted to leave just like that? It was impossible. However, just as he was about to attack, the 300 people on the mountain peak suddenly swarmed forward and surrounded Qin Feiyang and the other three. Gao Xiaohui hesitated for a moment and also went forward to act. As for Mu Tianyang and the other two, they had no intention of interfering. They were all gloating. The white-haired old man sitting beside the stairway was even calmer. He did not even open his eyes. Stop right there. Didn't you hear what Elder Feng said? The higher-ups gave the order to kill you on the spot. You want to leave just like that? Not a chance. You dare to slander Empyrean Palace? That means you are going against us disciples of Empyrean Palace. Today, as long as we leave, you won't be able to leave. The 300-plus people surrounded Qin Feiyang and the other three, all of them glaring at them like tigers watching their prey. They did not hide their murderous intent. Get lost. Qin Feiyang's patience was reaching its limit. His gaze was like a sharp blade that emitted a bone-piercing aura. The few young men and women standing at the front were all perfect war gods. However, when they saw Qin Feiyang's gaze, they could not help but feel a sense of fear. Brother, kill them. Fire Lotus said. Qin Rushwang also looked at Qin Feiyang and said, I allow you to start a massacre. The two did not transmit their voices. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent. Hearing Fire Lotus and Qin Rushwang's words, the surrounding people could not help but take a step back. Although Qin Feiyang's cultivation was only at the initial war god realm, since he was the first to arrive at Empyrean Palace, he must have some terrifying trump card. At the same time, Huiyi's heart skipped a beat. He turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other two's expressions. He immediately knew that something was wrong. After interacting with these three for so many days, this was the first time he had seen such terrifying gazes. If this continued, the three of them would probably really start a massacre here. Qin Feiyang scanned the surrounding crowd. Seeing that these people did not give way, a monstrous murderous intent exploded and he shouted, I'll say it one last time, get lost. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's body was surrounded by a murderous aura like a blood-red flame. This terrifying murderous aura was something that no one at the scene had ever felt before. Even Feng Wenhai could not help but narrow his eyes and feel a chill in his heart. What kind of person was this? Why was there such a terrifying murderous aura hiding in his body? Compared to before, it was as if he was a completely different person. It was as if a god of death had returned. Guosweki and Gao Xiaohui stared at Qin Feiyang with pale faces. This was because in their impression, Qin Feiyang had always been a gentle and amiable person. Therefore, at this moment, when they saw Qin Feiyang revealing such a side, they were not used to it, but more than that, they were scared. Not only was this murderous aura terrifying to an unprecedented degree, it was also cold-blooded and merciless. They could even smell the scent of blood, as if a demon had descended. Even the white-haired old man was startled. The white-haired old man slowly opened his eyes and stared at Qin Feiyang, who was standing among the crowd, with a flicker in his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking in his heart. But soon, he closed his eyes again, and his expression calmed down. Murderous aura enveloped the entire mountain peak. The surrounding people began to slowly back away. Mu Qing glanced at the more than 300 people and sneered inwardly, if it was me, I would have fled long ago. What a bunch of idiots. Idiots? Guosweki was stunned and said telepathically, Mu Qing, is Qin Feiyang that strong? Strong? The word strong is not enough to describe how terrifying he is. If we really provoke him, let alone these trash, the entire Empyrean Palace will suffer. Or even destroy them. Mu Qing thought. What? Guosweki's eyes trembled. Mu Qing is not joking. If this guy goes crazy, even I will be slaughtered. Especially his biggest trump card. Once he uses it, the entire northern region will suffer. Mu Tianyang pondered for a while and said, it might be more appropriate to describe it as a calamity. Guosweki's heart was in turmoil. She did not expect this man to be so terrifying. If that was the case, was there any hope for her revenge? Although he is terrifying, there are many ways to take revenge. It just depends on whether you have the heart to do it. Mu Tianyang saw through Guosweki's thoughts and said with a smile. The enmity of exterminating my clan is irreconcilable. I can't wait to kill him now. Guosweki thought. Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed and said, but he is your fiancé after all. So what if he is my fiancé? Guosweki snorted coldly. Hearing this, Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing looked at each other and smiled. Mu Tianyang said telepathically, then let me remind you that your fiancé cares a lot about the people around him. The people around him. Guosweki was stunned and shifted her gaze to Qin Rushwang and Fire Lotus. Soon, she understood and muttered, Qin Feiyang, I will definitely make you regret it. Chapter 1986. At the top of the mountain. The murderous aura spread in all directions, as if it was dyed with blood. Feng Wenhai was not in a hurry to make a move. His eyes were full of sneers. However, even if he made a move, he probably wouldn't be able to do it. Because at the top of the sky stairway, a woman in purple had already arrived. This person was Shengguan Fenglan. But she didn't say a word and just watched silently. In addition to the clouds and mist, everyone's attention was now on Qin Feiyang, so they didn't notice her. Sigh. After a long time, Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, turned his head to look at Feng Wenhai, and sighed, I wanted to keep a low profile, but you guys are so aggressive. It seems that I am not born to keep a low profile. The corner of Feng Wenhai's mouth twitched. He actually pretended? You will regret it immediately. Qin Feiyang spoke again. Regret? Feng Wenhai was speechless. Was there really nothing wrong with this little bastard's head? Although he had the strength to instantly kill a perfect war god, he was a dignified elder of law enforcement. How could Nia Yun and the others compare to him? The corner of Feng Wenhai's mouth curled up into a mocking smile, a naked provocation. Get ready to run for your life. But Mu Tianyang couldn't calm down and transmitted his voice. Mu Qing's face was also extremely heavy. Guosweki looked at the two of them and couldn't help but feel nervous. Even Feng Wenhai didn't care. What kind of tricks did this man have? Boom! All of a sudden, a blood-red domain condensed around Qin Feiyang. A murderous aura that was even more terrifying than before flooded in all directions like a tide. In an instant, the 300 people surrounding Qin Feiyang and the others all collapsed to the ground. Their faces were filled with despair and fear. Slaughter domain. Upon seeing Qin Feiyang activate the slaughter domain, Mu Tianyang's gaze suddenly trembled and shouted, Go! Mu Qing also dragged Guosweki and fled with Mu Tianyang. The others didn't know, but they had seen the slaughter domain with their own eyes. They also knew how terrifying the slaughter domain was. What is this thing? Why am I panicking? Feng Wenhai was also staring at Qin Feiyang in shock. The contempt he had for Qin Feiyang earlier instantly vanished without a trace. The white-haired old man opened his eyes again. His eyes were filled with astonishment. After living for so many years, this kind of killing intent was simply unheard of. He then looked at Mu Tianyang and the other two. His old eyes flashed as he said, Shengguan Fenglan, what else do you want to see? Shengguan Fenglan. Feng Wenhai's eyes trembled as he scanned the surroundings. He turned to look at the top of the stairway and his expression changed drastically. He bowed and said, Greetings, Temple Master. Shengguan Fenglan was also extremely shocked at this moment. Although he didn't know what Qin Feiyang's domain was, he didn't know. However, even she felt an inexplicable sense of panic. Whoosh! Hearing the white-haired old man and Feng Wenhai's voices, she let out a long sigh and walked down step by step. Who is she? He looks about the same age as us. Why is Feng Wenhai so respectful? Temple Master? Which Temple Master is she? The more than 300 disciples raised their heads and looked at Shengguan Fenglan suspiciously. However, the panic in their hearts did not dissipate. Because Qin Feiyang's killing domain was still there. Qin Feiyang and the other three were also looking at Shangguan Fenglan with a trace of suspicion between their brows. After a while, Shangguan Fenglan walked down and stopped beside Feng Wenhai. Feng Wenhai looked at Shangguan Fenglan respectfully and said, "Temple Master, when did you come?" Shangguan Fenglan said indifferently, "When you came, I was already here." Feng Wenhai's heart trembled. Shangguan Fenglan said, "Feng Wenhai, I want to ask you, when did we say we were going to kill Jiang Haotian on the spot?" This, Feng Wenhai was slightly stunned and said suspiciously, "Isn't the evidence conclusive?" "The evidence is conclusive." Shangguan Fenglan murmured, looking down at Qin Feiyang. An inexplicable light flashed in her eyes, and she said indifferently, "Although it is true, we did not say we were going to kill him." "Temple Master." "What do you mean? Shouldn't they be killed for slandering Jotian Palace?" Feng Wenhai said. "They should be killed. However, the heavens are virtuous, and they are young and ignorant, which is why they did such stupid things. We might as well give them another chance." Shangguan Fenglan said indifferently. "What?" Feng Wenhai was stunned. She was going to let these people go? "Brother Jiang, what do you mean?" Hui Yi was also stunned. "I don't know." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Shangguan Fenglan looked at the four and said, "Jiang Haotian, Jiang Rushwang, Jiang Fire Lotus, Hui Yi, do you admit your mistakes? What did we do wrong?" "Someone is framing me," Qin Rushwang said. Shangguan Fenglan said, "Then tell me, who framed you? Do you have evidence?" Qin Rushwang was speechless. There was no doubt that Feng Wenhai and the others were behind this. However, they really could not produce any evidence. What a glib tongue. Sophistry. "Temple Master, the first elder sent someone to investigate this matter, and you saw it with your own eyes. It can't be fake. Don't be fooled by them." Feng Wenhai bowed. "You don't need to remind me. I know what to do." Shangguan Fenglan waved her hand and looked at the four people. "Do you have evidence?" Qin Rushwang shook her head. "Since you don't have evidence, what are you still arguing about? If you admit your mistakes, you must change. I'm giving you a chance. Don't waste it." Shangguan Fenglan snorted coldly. Hearing this, Qin Rushwang suddenly became angry. Hui Yi saw that the situation was not good and said telepathically, "My lady, can you stop talking? Can't you see that this woman is saving us? I know she's helping us. But I can't admit it." Qin Rushwang said to herself. Hui Yi's heart was full of helplessness. He turned his head and glanced at Qin Feiyang, saying, "Brother Jiang, say something." Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Rushwang, then at Hui Yi, and then at Shangguan Fenglan. His eyes flickered. Shangguan Fenglan also looked at Qin Feiyang without any change in her expression. "Brother Jiang, I know you have a temper. But if we really fall out with Jotian Palace, it won't do us any good. You have to think twice." Hui Yi transmitted his voice anxiously. Qin Feiyang and Shangguan Fenglan looked at each other like this. The more than 300 people did not dare to make a sound. After an unknown period of time, suddenly, the killing zone around Qin Feiyang dissipated. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing finally breathed a sigh of relief. Hui Yi also let out a long breath. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply and said to Shangguan Fenglan, "We know our mistake." "Feiyang. Brother Jiang." Qin Rushwang and Fire Lotus were stunned and immediately cried out secretly. Knowing their mistake was equivalent to admitting it. Wasn't this deliberately giving Feng Wenhai a chance to deal with them? "Alright, don't say any more. I know what I'm doing." Qin Feiyang secretly said. "Palace Master, did you hear that? He admitted it. Since he admitted it, he should be killed immediately as a warning to others." As expected, Feng Wenhai immediately began to make things difficult. Shangguan Fenglan ignored him and looked at Qin Feiyang. Since you're wrong, do you want to change it? Definitely. Qin Feiyang nodded. Very good. Then I'll give you a chance and allow you to enter Jotian Palace. However, rewards and punishments must be clear, or it will be difficult to convince the public. Your first place will be annulled and replaced by the second place. Naturally, you won't get the reward. Moreover, you, who should be inner disciples, will be demoted to outer disciples. Do you have any objections? Shangguan Fenglan asked. No. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Shangguan Fenglan said, all right, then it's settled. Palace Master, I have something to say. Feng Wenhai hurriedly said. Speak. Shangguan Fenglan said. I know you're kind, Palace Master, but nothing can be accomplished without rules. If we let them go after committing such a grave mistake, how will Jotian Palace stand in the future? Most importantly, if you do this, people will definitely say that you're deliberately protecting them. This will damage your reputation. Feng Wenhai said. Wrong. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. What's wrong? Feng Wenhai was suspicious. Just as you said, even though they committed such a grave mistake, I was still willing to show them mercy and let them off. Doesn't this prove that my Nine Heavens Palace is a reasonable place? Therefore, by doing this, I'm adding flowers to brocade and giving Jotian Palace a better reputation. Everyone will definitely rely on and respect Jotian Palace in the future. After Shangguan Fenglan finished speaking, she looked at the 300 people and smiled. Do you think what I said makes sense? Palace Master is benevolent. Jotian Palace will definitely rise to a higher level in the future. Those people immediately shouted. Shangguan Fenglan nodded her head in satisfaction and turned to Feng Wenhai. She asked with a smile, do you see that? Do you still think I'm wrong? I wouldn't dare. Feng Wenhai's pupils shrank and he quickly shook his head. Since there are no objections, then hurry up and arrange it. I think these little guys can't wait to enter Jotian Palace. Shangguan Fenglan swept her gaze across the crowd and smiled. Yes. Feng Wenhai respectfully replied. He looked gloomily at Qin Feiyang's group and shouted, Mu Tianyang, Mu Qin, Guasueki, come forward. The three of them exchanged a glance and quickly walked to the heavenly stairway. Feng Wenhai took out a Qinkuan bag and said, apart from Qin Feiyang's group of 4, you were the first to come here. Their rankings are now invalid, so you're first. After saying that, he threw the Qinkuan bag to Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang hastily caught the Qinkuan bag and bowed, thank you, Elder. Thank you, Palace Master. Mu Qing secretly said, Ancestor, quickly take a look. Is there really a divine art, a divine item, and a soul stone? Mu Tianyang examined it and nodded, there's no mistake. Haha. Mu Qing immediately laughed inwardly and glanced at Qin Feiyang. She transmitted her voice, Qin Feiyang, what's this called? By the way, man proposes but God disposes. You didn't expect this reward to fall into our hands in the end, did you? Qin Feiyang glanced at Mu Qing and then looked at Mu Tianyang, who also had a smug expression. He was extremely unhappy. How frustrating. Qin Rushwang and Fire Lotus were also indignant. They could choose not to take this reward. But if these two bastards took advantage of it, they would be unhappy. Chapter 1987. Feng Wenhai looked at Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang, his eyes twinkling. As an elder of the enforcement hall, he definitely had extraordinary eyesight. Therefore, he could tell at a glance that not only did the two have a grudge, but it had reached an irreconcilable stage. Perhaps this Mu Tianyang could be used well. However, Feng Wenhai glanced at Shangguan Fenglan. What did this woman mean today? After knowing her for so many years, he naturally knew Shangguan Fenglan very well. In the past, this woman never cared about these trivial matters. She rarely even appeared in public. But today, not only did she come out, but she also helped Jiang Haotian and the others? Wait. Could this woman be the backer of Jiang Haotian and the others? Feng Wenhai's heart trembled. If that was the case, then this matter was not good. Although Shangguan Fenglan looked harmless, she was actually a woman with extremely terrifying means. This matter must be thoroughly investigated. Feng Wenhai's eyes flashed, looking down at the people on the mountain peak, and said, "Next, please extract a drop of blood essence and drip it on the stairway to heaven." Mu Tianyang and the other two were the first to step forward. The others followed closely behind. Blood essence. Qin Feiyang muttered. Qin Dage, what about you? Fire Lotus looked at Qin Feiyang worriedly and asked secretly. Qin Rushwang was also quite worried. Everything else could be hidden, except for blood essence. Because blood essence could not be changed. Once Qin Feiyang extracted the blood essence, then the matter of the purple gold dragon blood would naturally not be hidden from everyone. Qin Feiyang said, "Gao Xiaolong has already mentioned this matter, and I have been thinking about it." After saving Gao Xiaolong in the Sky Dragon Mountain Range, he got the information about the fusion of blood essence from Gao Xiaolong. Fire Lotus asked, "Then do you have a way now?" Qin Feiyang said secretly, "I can only think of one way, which is to cause chaos and fuse the blood essence into the stairway to heaven when no one is paying attention." Chaos. Fire Lotus and Qin Rushwang looked at each other. "This matter still depends on you guys," Qin Feiyang said. "We?" The two girls were stunned. "Yes." Qin Feiyang secretly agreed. Looking at the backs of Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing, he transmitted his voice, "These two people are a little too complacent now. Go and suppress their arrogance and drag them down with you." Drag him down? The two girls didn't understand. Qin Feiyang whispered a few words in their ears. "Good idea." The two women looked at each other and smiled, then immediately walked towards Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing had just finished fusing the essence blood and were about to turn around and retreat to the side. However, just as they turned around, Qin Rushwang and the other two stepped forward, raised their arms, and slapped them hard in the face. Ugh! The peak of the mountain fell into deathly silence once more. Shangguan Fenglan and Feng Wenhai also stared at Qin Rushwang and Fire Lotus in shock. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing were even more dumbfounded on the spot. Hui Yi also looked at the two of them in shock. What was going on? What are you doing? After coming back to their senses, Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing were suddenly furious and shouted at the two of them. Qin Rushwang and Hui Yi didn't say a word and directly slapped them in the face again. Bastard! Have you guys gone crazy? Don't think that I won't dare to hit you just because you are women. There was no doubt. The two consecutive slaps made Mu Tianyang and Hui Yi's hair stand on end. Putting Mu Qing aside, let's talk about Mu Tianyang. As an emperor, being slapped in the face in public by a woman was a complete humiliation to him. Go ahead and hit us. Qin Rushwang approached Mu Tianyang with a frosty face. Mu Tianyang, on the other hand, was at a loss and kept retreating. You heartless bastard. You used to say that you liked me a lot, but when you saw us being bullied just now, you actually did nothing? I must be blind. How could I fall for a useless man like you? Qin Rushwang said angrily, looking wronged. I like you? Mu Tianyang was stunned. What was going on? Mu Qing also looked at Mu Tianyang in shock. Why are you looking at him? You are also a heartless bastard. Fire Lotus shouted. Me? Mu Qing pointed at her nose and asked in shock. If not you, who else could it be? Let me tell you, if you don't make it clear today, I will never forgive you. As Huolian spoke, tears flowed out of her eyes. This, Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing looked at each other. Was she having a stroke? Qin Feiyang was secretly refining the blood essence while sweeping his eyes over everyone. Basically, everyone's attention was on Qin Rushuang and the other three. However, he noticed that Shangguan Fenglan seemed to be looking at him intentionally or unintentionally. Could it be that this woman had already guessed that Qin Rushuang and Mu Qing's current actions were ordered by him? If that was the case, then there was definitely no way to integrate the essence blood into the stairway to heaven without anyone noticing. It seemed that he had to think of an idea. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up and he said to himself, "Hui Yi, kick me." What? Hui Yi was stunned. He suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Otherwise, why would someone make such a request? Hurry up, Qin Feiyang urged. Are you sure? Hui Yi was stunned. Yes, hurry up, Qin Feiyang said to himself. Okay. Hui Yi shook his head helplessly. What a strange request. Then, he kicked Qin Feiyang's butt fiercely. Qin Feiyang immediately exclaimed as his entire body soared into the air and pounced on the stairway to heaven. The sudden scene caused everyone present to fall into a state of shock once again. Then, everyone's gaze shifted to Qin Feiyang. Qin Rushuang and Fire Lotus were also a little stunned. Qin Feiyang said to himself, "Go and settle the score with Hui Yi." Settle the score? Qin Rushuang and Fire Lotus were stunned for a moment before they suddenly understood and said angrily, "Hui Yi, you bastard, why did you bully my brother?" Me? Hui Yi looked at the angry Qin Rushuang and Fire Lotus with an innocent face. This was what Jiang Haotian asked for. How could he be blamed? Everyone's gaze fell on Hui Yi again. One moment, he slapped others in public, the next moment, he kicked others away. What kind of people were these? At the same time, Qin Feiyang, who was lying on the stairway to heaven, used his body as a cover to take out his blood essence and fuse it with the stairway to heaven. And in order to cover the aura of the purple gold dragon blood, he erupted with a burst of divine power. After fusing with the blood essence, he immediately jumped up and angrily rushed towards Hui Yi. In this way, everyone naturally thought that it was because he was kicked by Hui Yi that he released his divine power. What the hell is going on? Looking at Qin Feiyang's angry face, Hui Yi was like a bullied little wife, his face full of grievance. Enough. A cold shout suddenly sounded. Qin Feiyang and the others froze and turned to look at Feng Wenhai. Feng Wenhai said angrily, "Lord Temple Master is here, and you still dare to be so presumptuous. You are indeed a group of arrogant people. This is our private matter, what does it have to do with you? Elder Feng, do you even want to care about our food and drink?" Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Feng Wenhai was so angry that he stomped his feet. This time, this temple master will not speak up for you. Because as a disciple of Nine Heavens Palace, you can't be so unruly, and you can't offend the enforcement elder. Shangguan Fenglan said. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and said, "Disciple knows his mistake and will definitely change in the future." Shangguan Fenglan nodded. Feng Wenhai glared at Qin Feiyang and angrily shouted, "Continue." Everyone's pupils shrank and they once again rushed towards the sky stairway. Qin Feiyang also mixed in with the crowd and pretended to be calm. "Temple Master, you've seen it with your own eyes. These people are naughty by nature. If we let them enter Nine Heavens Palace, who knows what kind of trouble they will cause. This subordinate still thinks that we should directly kill them to prevent future troubles." Feng Wenhai couldn't swallow this anger and looked at Shangguan Fenglan. "Feng Wenhai, you are our Nine Heavens Palace's enforcement elder. How can you be so narrow-minded?" Shangguan Fenglan said. "I'm narrow-minded? Temple Master, your words are a little too much. I've been in the enforcement hall for so many years. What kind of people don't you know? If they are really good people, I definitely won't make things difficult for them. But they are all naughty people. Temple Master, forgive me for offending you. Are you so protective of them because of some other reason?" Feng Wenhai asked cautiously. He was obviously trying to get information from Shangguan Fenglan. This temple master has never seen them. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head. Then what are you doing? Feng Wenhai frowned. Shangguan Fenglan said, this temple master has said before that I just couldn't bear it. Why? Do you suspect that they are my people? No, no, no. Feng Wenhai hurriedly waved his hand. How about this, in order to prove this temple master's innocence, you will be in charge of supervising them in the future. If they dare to act recklessly again, just do it. Shangguan Fenglan said. Okay. Feng Wenhai nodded. He couldn't ask for more. As long as they had nothing to do with Shangguan Fenglan, it would be easy for him to get rid of these people in the future with his status. After a while, more than 300 people all retreated to the side. Shangguan Fenglan glanced at the crowd and ordered, Feng Wenhai, bring them up. Yes. Feng Wenhai responded respectfully. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and shouted, follow me. After saying that, he turned around and walked up the stairway to heaven. Everyone immediately followed and surged upwards in a grandiose manner. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other and also stepped onto the stairway to heaven. This time, the stairway to heaven didn't react at all like last time. Mu Tianyang frowned and caught up with Qin Feiyang with Mu Qing and Guosweki. He said telepathically, Qin Feiyang, are you up to something again? No. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Mu Tianyang said angrily, do you dare say that Qin Rushwang and the others weren't ordered by you? He was really unable to calm down after being slapped twice for no reason. It's just 2 slaps. What's the big deal? I'm not even angry that you stole our reward. Qin Feiyang said lightly. You've gone too far. We also didn't expect Shangguan Fenglan to abolish your ranking and give the reward to us. If you want to blame someone, you should blame Shangguan Fenglan. Mu Tianyang said angrily. After saying so much, isn't the reward still in your hands? If you're so capable, why don't you return it to me now? Qin Feiyang sneered secretly. Return it to you? Then I've taken these 2 slaps for nothing? Mu Tianyang snorted coldly. Chapter 1988. You won't get slapped for nothing. Give me the reward and I'll let you slap me back. Qin Feiyang snickered secretly. There's no need for that. Mu Tianyang sneered. Mu Qing frowned and said, Ancestor, haven't you overlooked the most serious problem? What? Mu Tianyang was suspicious. Mu Qing said with a strange expression, putting aside the fact that we've been slapped twice, it seems like we've all become heartless men now. Mu Tianyang's face twitched. Those who did not know the truth might really think that was what Qin Rushwang and Fire Lotus had said earlier. Wait. It's not that simple. Mu Tianyang seemed to have thought of something and his face was full of anger. What's wrong? Mu Qing was suspicious. This is a trap. The people who framed Qin Feiyang this time must be the Feng family. In other words, the Feng family wants to get rid of this guy no matter what. Originally, we could have cut ties with them. However, now that Qin Rushwang and the others have made such a scene, our relationship with Qin Feiyang has become ambiguous. The Feng family will definitely hate us as well. In short, now, we've been dragged down by him. Mu Qing said in a deep voice. That makes sense. That bastard, he's always thinking of plotting against us. Mu Qing glared at Qin Feiyang angrily and thought to herself, what if the Feng family really comes to make trouble for us? Mu Tianyang pondered for a while and rubbed his forehead. He sighed. It's probably useless to explain. We can only wait and see when the time comes. Sigh. Mu Qing could not help but sigh inwardly as well. He really could not be careless when interacting with that bastard Qin Feiyang. Otherwise, he would be plotted against. Wait. All of a sudden, Mu Qing stopped in his tracks and looked at Qin Feiyang's back with a bewildered expression. What's wrong? Mu Tianyang was suspicious. Mu Qing thought to herself, why didn't anyone discover Qin Feiyang's purple golden dragon blood before? I said you're stupid, but you still won't admit it. Do you still remember that Hui kicked Qin Feiyang? He must have used that opportunity to secretly fuse his blood essence into the stairway to heaven. Mu Tianyang thought to himself. I see. On one hand, he dragged us into the water, and on the other, he successfully deceived us. What a good plan. Mu Qing stared at Qin Feiyang's back with cold eyes. Although he had obtained the reward for being first place, he was not happy at all. Mu Tianyang was the same. Mu Qing was so angry that she transmitted her voice, Ancestor, why don't we directly expose his identity? If it was in the past, it would have been a good idea. But now, with the two women making a fuss and exposing his identity, I'm afraid we'll be in trouble. To be honest, I really regret it. I shouldn't have hesitated before the assessment. We were really one step behind. Mu Tianyang sighed. According to what you said, now we have to help him hide his identity? Mu Qing raised her eyebrows. That's right. What's the situation with Qin Batian in Empyrean Palace? We have to figure this out. If the rumors are true and he has a high status in Empyrean Palace, then we'll benefit from Qin Feiyang. But if it's the opposite of the rumors, then we'll naturally be implicated. Mu Tianyang suddenly became angry when he said this. Why did it feel like he and Qin Feiyang were grasshoppers on the same rope, and their lives were tied together? Heartless man, Qin Rushuang, how could he like Qin Baishan's daughter? What a headache. Below. Shangguan Fenglan glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others, walked down the sky stairway, stood in front of the white-haired old man, and bowed. Master. If Qin Feiyang were here, he would definitely be shocked. This seemingly ordinary old man was actually Shangguan Fenglan's master. But the white-haired old man still did not open his eyes, and asked, Is this your idea or the First Elder's? First Elder. Shangguan Fenglan said. The white-haired old man fell silent. Shangguan Fenglan waited for a moment, but the white-haired old man did not speak, so she took the initiative to ask, Master, do you think Jiang Haotian has the ability? Yes. The white-haired old man nodded. Shangguan Fenglan was surprised that her master did not hesitate at all. It seemed that Jiang Haotian was really a talent. I've retired and don't want to care about these things anymore. When you go back and see the First Elder, tell him to be careful not to draw fire. After the white-haired old man finished speaking, he fell silent. Draw fire? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. But the white-haired old man had no intention of explaining. Shangguan Fenglan smiled helplessly, bowed, and said, I'll take my leave. After saying that, without waiting for the white-haired old man to respond, she turned around and walked up the stairway to heaven. Because she knew that the white-haired old man would not respond to her. Also, tell him again that there's no need to look for the Deputy Palace Lord's whereabouts. The white-haired old man suddenly said. Shangguan Fenglan was surprised, turned to look at the white-haired old man, and asked, Master, do you know where the Deputy Palace Lord is? However, the white-haired old man did not speak again. Shangguan Fenglan smiled bitterly, turned around, and quickly disappeared into the clouds. At the same time, at the top of the stairway to heaven was an empty square. Qin Feiyang and a group of people gathered in the square, looking curiously in front of them. The square was about 1,000 feet wide, and there was an eye-catching altar in the center. This altar was identical in shape to the teleportation altar. However, it was several times larger than the teleportation altar, resembling a small mountain. Outside the square was an endless stretch of towering mountains. In the mountains, the vegetation was lush, clouds and mist lingered, and all kinds of auspicious beasts and birds flew between the mountains. There were snow-white cranes. There were colorful peacocks. There were flame-like firebirds. This place was simply like a fairyland. Moreover, many of them were towering trees. There were even some ancient trees that dozens of people could not wrap their arms around. The vines wrapped around the ancient trees were as thick as buckets, like horned dragons, full of a strong aura. These ancient trees would not grow without tens of thousands of years. In the jungle, there were many fierce beasts' auras, each of which was extremely terrifying. Some auras were comparable to Shengguan Fenglan. There were even auras stronger than Shengguan Fenglan. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the fierce beasts here were. In addition, the essence qi here was also extremely rich. Everyone felt as if they were in the middle of an ocean of essence qi. They did not need to absorb it, and it flowed into their bodies through the pores of their bodies. It could be said that cultivating here for a day was comparable to cultivating outside for several days. No wonder the people of the North region desperately wanted to enter the Nine Heavens Palace. Not only were there endless resources here, but the cultivation environment was also far better than the outside. How is the Nine Heavens Palace? A chuckle sounded from the back. Everyone turned their heads and saw Shengguan Fenglan standing at the back, looking at everyone with a smile. Greetings, Palace Master. Everyone bowed. When I first entered the Nine Heavens Palace, I was deeply shocked like all of you. Rich essence qi. Rich resources. Powerful fierce beasts. All of these were things that I had never even dreamed of before. At that time, I secretly swore that I would not waste such a good cultivation environment, and I must work hard. Finally, one day, I sat on the throne of the Law Enforcement Palace Master. I'm not saying this to show off anything, but to let you know to cherish this opportunity. Shengguan Fenglan smiled. We will remember the Palace Master's teachings. Everyone bowed in response, and their fighting spirit was high in their hearts. All right then. Feng Wenhai, take care of them well. After Shengguan Fenglan finished speaking, she rode the wind and disappeared into the depths of the mountain. Elder Feng, what kind of place is this? Someone asked curiously. The Nine Heavens Palace is an island floating in the sky. Although it's just an island, it's very big. Most of you are perfection war gods. With your speed, it'll take you at least 2 days to fly to the end of the island. Feng Wenhai said. It's actually an island? Everyone was dumbfounded. The most ridiculous thing was that it would take them 2 days to fly to the end. How big is this place? Qin Feiyang and the others were also shocked. If a perfect stage battle god needed 2 days, wouldn't it take even longer for them, who had just become battle gods and initial stage battle gods? This place was several times bigger than the Great Qin Empire and the Forgotten Continent combined. You're already surprised? The real surprise is yet to come. You can slowly understand the specific situation. Now, I'll bring you to the cave. Follow me. Feng Wenhai rose into the air and flew towards the mountain. The others quickly followed. What's the use of this altar? After Qin Feiyang flew into the sky, he looked down at the altar in the middle of the square suspiciously. I heard that this altar can directly teleport you to the Eastern Tomb, Western Desert, and Southern Wasteland. Hua Yi said in a low voice. What? Qin Feiyang was stunned and said in surprise, it can teleport you so far? It's said that not only in the Northern Domain, but also in the Eastern Tomb, Western Desert, and Southern Wasteland. After all, the 4 domains are too far apart and you have to pass through various dangerous forbidden areas. So, with these 4 altars, it'll be much more convenient no matter what you do. Hua Yi said with a smile. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, in other words, the 4 domains often interact with each other? Normal people definitely don't. Even the disciples of the Nine Heavens Palace are not allowed to enter the Eastern Tomb, Western Desert, and Southern Wasteland without permission from the higher-ups. The same goes for the Eastern Tomb, Western Desert, and Southern Wasteland. So, only the leaders of the 4 domains often interact with each other. Hua Yi said. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. We're here. Suddenly, Feng Wenhai's voice sounded. So fast. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. It seemed that only a few dozen breaths had passed. Looking up, he saw a towering mountain peak in front of him. Each mountain peak was at least 1,000 feet high and covered with verdant vegetation. At a glance, it was densely packed, but arranged very neatly. And on the cliff, there was a stone door at regular intervals. Some stone doors were closed. Some stone doors were wide open. And that was the cave. Chapter 1989. Where is Cheng Li? Just as everyone was curiously sizing up the cave, Feng Wenhai shouted loudly. Whoosh! Not long after. Accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, a black-clothed brawny man teleported over and landed in front of Feng Wenhai. The black-clothed brawny man cupped his hands and smiled, Brother Feng. Feng Wenhai nodded and smiled, and shouted without turning his head, Outer sect disciples, step out. More than 200 people immediately stepped out. Qin Feiyang, Qin Rishuang, Fire Lotus, and Hui Yi were also among them. The one standing in front of you is called Cheng Li, an outer sect elder. From now on, he will be responsible for everything you do. You must respect him more than your parents. Feng Wenhai said. Greetings, Elder Cheng. Everyone bowed and saluted. Cheng Li nodded, and looked at Feng Wenhai with a smile. Brother Feng, your words are a bit exaggerated. Finished. He then swept his gaze over Qin Feiyang and the others, and said, I am a very casual person, as long as you don't cause trouble in the future and follow the rules. Disciple will remember. Everyone bowed and replied. They thought to themselves that this elder looked quite easygoing, unlike Feng Wenhai, who was overbearing. Feng Wenhai glanced at Qin Feiyang and the other three, his eyes shining, and laughed. Brother Cheng, let's talk somewhere else. All right. Cheng Li nodded. The two of them walked to a distance and whispered to each other. Who knew what they were talking about? Hui Yi sent a sound transmission. Brother Jiang, guess what this Feng Wenhai is talking about? It's definitely nothing good. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Hui Yi was slightly startled, and frowned. Why do I feel that you're not worried at all? Worried? There's no need for that. Anyway, if it's a blessing, it's not a disaster. If it's a disaster, it can't be avoided. Qin Feiyang secretly said. Hui Yi was stunned, he shook his head and laughed. To be honest, I really admire your mentality. I also admire you. Qin Feiyang smiled indifferently. Me? Hui Yi was at a loss. What was there to admire about him? Qin Feiyang did not speak again. There were some things that only needed to be clear in his heart. Although Hui Yi appeared to be a coward, if one were to carefully observe him, they would discover that he was not afraid at all. In other words, the so-called cowardice was completely an act. Qin Feiyang, the Feng family definitely won't take this lying down. Also, Hui Yi isn't someone to be trifled with either. You have to be careful. Mu Tianyang's voice suddenly rang in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang cast a glance toward Mu Tianyang and said inwardly, if anything happens to me, isn't that what you want to see? You, good intentions really don't pay off. I'm just concerned about you. Even though we don't have a good relationship, we're both from Great Qin. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. You care about me? You should be more concerned about yourself. I'm guessing that Feng Wenhai will talk to you soon. Qin Feiyang snickered. You're really a bastard. Mu Tianyang cursed inwardly. This guy was indeed scheming against them. Qin Feiyang chuckled and transmitted his voice. Actually, you don't have to be so angry. It's your blessing to be tied to me. Blessing? Mu Tianyang's anger suddenly flared up and he said angrily, then shouldn't I thank you? No need to thank me. As long as you don't stab me in the back in the future. Qin Feiyang snickered inwardly. You're really shameless. Mu Tianyang glared fiercely at Qin Feiyang. At this time, Feng Wenhai and Qingli walked side by side. Inner disciples, follow me. Feng Wenhai walked over, and without saying anything, he turned around and headed deeper into the forest. Dozens of people immediately followed him. Qin Feiyang, don't play tricks in the future. If you really annoy me, I'll die with you. Mu Tianyang secretly snorted and quickly left with Mu Qing and Guosweki. Qin Feiyang looked up at Mu Tianyang's back and muttered secretly, "Are you willing to die with me? You guys come with me too." Qingli glanced at the crowd and said with a smile. He also turned and flew toward a giant peak below. The crowd quickly followed. There are a total of 10,000 sword peaks in our outer gate, which are the ones in front of you. And each sword peak has 1,000 cave residences. In other words, our outer gate can accommodate a total of 10 million people. Qingli explained as he flew. What? 10 million people? Everyone was shocked. Even Qin Feiyang was extremely shocked. 10 million, what kind of concept was that? Some small countries didn't have that many people in the whole country. The most important thing was, anyone who entered Jiutian Palace must be a war god. And at the very least, a perfect war god. In other words, just an outer gate, there were 10 million war gods. This was unbelievable. If the outer gate was so terrifying, then what about the inner gate? They didn't even dare to think about it. Qingli smiled and said, of course, although there are 10 million cave residences, they have never been full. Someone asked curiously, then how many disciples do we have in the outer gate? Qingli said, around 8 million. 8 million. Everyone sucked in a breath of air. Even if there wasn't 10 million, 8 million was enough to shock everyone. Of these 8 million people, 99% of them are at the perfection or perfection war god level. The remaining 1% are all advanced stage war gods. As for initial stage, Jiutian Palace doesn't have any. However, you must not underestimate that 1%. They can rely on this cultivation to pass the exam and enter Jiutian Palace. They are not ordinary people. Qingli smiled. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but look at Qin Feiyang and the others. Weren't they just a few exceptions? Hui grinned, don't look at us like that, okay? We'll be shy. Shy? Everyone was speechless and rolled their eyes. While they were talking, Qingli brought a group of people and stopped in front of a sword peak in the north. There's only one person on this sword peak right now. You guys can stay here. As for the cave residences, they're all the same size. There's no difference. You guys can distribute them yourselves. After settling down, go to the number 1 sword peak to find me and receive your clothes and identity badge. Qingli turned around and looked at everyone, smiling. Yes. Everyone nodded respectfully. Alright, you guys go ahead. After Qingli finished speaking, he flashed and disappeared without a trace. This is our cave residence. I never dreamed that I would actually be able to enter Jiutian Palace. When I walk out in the future, who would dare to be impudent in front of me? Everyone looked at the sword peak. Some were filled with emotions, while others were in high spirits. In short, everyone's face was filled with bright smiles. However, Qin Feiyang frowned. Brother, what are you thinking about? Fire Lotus asked in a low voice. I thought that this Qingli would make things difficult for us, but I didn't expect that he didn't do anything. Could it be that I'm thinking too much, and Feng Wenhai didn't instigate him at all? Or, is he an upright person and wasn't bribed by Feng Wenhai? Qin Feiyang muttered. Since we're here, let's take it easy. What's the point of thinking so much? Hui smiled and raised his head to look at the cave residence. On the stone door of each cave residence, there was a number. From 1 to 1,000. Someone suddenly said, Elder Cheng, let us distribute the cave residence by ourselves. How do we do it? Although there's no difference between these 1,000 cave residences, these numbers represent strength. What do you mean by that? It's very simple. From number 1 to 1,000 cave residences, from top to bottom, the person with the strongest cultivation will choose the cave residence at the top. And those with weak cultivation will naturally choose the cave residence at the bottom. The group of people discussed animatedly. Hui glanced at the group of people with a hint of ridicule in his eyes. He suddenly said, "I object." Everyone was stunned and turned to look at Hui. Why should we look at cultivation? If we want to look at it, we have to look at strength. Hui said. Strength. Hearing this, everyone's pupils shrank and couldn't help but look at Qin Feiyang, who was standing next to Hui. In terms of strength, this person was definitely number 1. Wait. Although this Jiang Haotian is famous, we haven't really seen him fight. That's right. Even at the mountain peak, he only released a murderous aura. Although his murderous aura is terrifying, it doesn't mean that he has strength. Everyone secretly discussed. Indeed. After Qin Feiyang entered Sky Dragon City, he basically didn't make a move. The only times he did was when he killed the 2 black-clothed men, fought with Black Dragon, and Nia Yun's group. But very few people knew about these things. As for killing the black-clothed men, only people like Gongzi Feng and Guiyong knew. As for fighting Black Dragon, only Hui secretly saw it. As for killing Nia Yun's group, only Fire Lotus and the upper echelons of 9 Heavens Palace knew. And these people in front of him knew nothing. Jiang Haotian, I want to challenge you. Whoever wins, the number 1 cave mansion will belong to him. One of the black-clothed youths gritted his teeth and walked out of the crowd, looking at Jiang Haotian. Challenge? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Although your reputation is great, we haven't seen your strength with our own eyes. If you really have strength, then please show it and let us be convinced. The black-clothed youth shouted. Yes. We've just arrived at 9 Heavens Palace and will definitely be bullied by other disciples, so we have to unite. Since we have to unite, then there has to be someone to lead us. And this person has to be the strongest among us. Please show us your strength. Let us see if you're the real deal, or if you don't live up to your reputation. Do you have the qualifications to make us listen to your orders? The others also shouted. Qin Feiyang was stunned as he looked at the group of people who were in high spirits. Did he say that he wanted to lead everyone? And challenge him? Don't be so childish, okay? He entered 9 Heavens Palace purely to investigate the whereabouts of his ancestors. He didn't care about anything else. I don't care what you want. I won't accept your challenge as long as you don't come and bother me. Qin Feiyang said indifferently and walked towards cave mansion number 1000. In any case, there was no difference between the immortals' cave and where one lived was the same. Why should they fight over it? Boring. Jiang Haotian, what do you mean by this? Didn't you hear that we won't be bullied only if we unite? You don't even dare to accept my challenge? Is your reputation really undeserved? The black-clothed youth said angrily. Chapter 1990. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and turned to the young man in black. So we won't be bullied if we're united? Of course. The young man in black nodded. I didn't expect you to be so naive even though you're at the perfection battle god realm. Elder Cheng said before that there are more than 8 million disciples in the outer sect. Just like you, they all relied on their own abilities to enter the 9 Heavens Palace. I'd like to ask, which one of them is ordinary? If they really come to bully you, do you think you'll be able to fight them? So I'd like to advise you to stop wasting your time. Work hard on your cultivation and increase your strength. That's the right way to go. As for me, just think of me as someone with an undeserved reputation. After saying that, Qin Feiyang stepped forward and landed in front of the cave dwelling. He walked in without looking back. Qin Rushwang and Fire Lotus followed him and left. Hui shook his head in disappointment. Originally, he wanted Qin Feiyang to show off his skills. However, in the end, Qin Feiyang left without saying a word. In the crowd, Gao Xiaowei glanced at Qin Feiyang's back, then looked at the 6 young men beside her and asked, "What should we do?" Jiang Haotian is right. Wasting your time is useless. Besides, we have Gong Zifeng to back us up. We don't have to worry about anyone bullying us. Let's just find a cave dwelling. One of the young men said. The other 4 nodded. Seeing Qin Feiyang and his group entering the cave dwelling with Gao Xiaowei's group, the young man in black and his group were stunned. What should we do? Are we still going to fight for first place? Fight, we have to decide who's better. As for Jiang Haotian and his group, we don't have to worry about them. After all, there are always a few people who don't fit in. That's right. If they encounter any trouble in the future, don't expect us to help them. The group of people was furious. Qin Feiyang chose cave dwelling number 1000. Qin Rishuang, Fire Lotus, and Hui Yi chose abodes number 999, 998, and 997 respectively. Gao Xiaowei and the 5 young men did not show off in the slightest. They chose caves 996 to 991. Inside the 1000th cave abode, Qin Feiyang stood in the middle of the cave and looked around. This cave abode was quite big. It was squarish and was about 200 to 300 feet wide. But it was very simple. Other than a shabby futon on the ground, there was nothing else. But there was one thing that Qin Feiyang was quite satisfied with. The cave abode was very clean and not damp. To him, the cave abode was not important at all. That was because he had been cultivating in the castle the whole time. Rumble. Outside, the sound of battle suddenly rang out. Qin Feiyang ignored him. He stood in place and lowered his head, muttering to himself. Soon, the 2 women walked over hand in hand. They were Qin Rishuang and Fire Lotus. Seeing Qin Feiyang lowering his head and pondering, a trace of suspicion appeared in their eyes, but they didn't say anything to disturb him. A moment later, Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief. When he saw Qin Rishuang and Fire Lotus behind him, he asked in surprise, "When did you guys arrive?" Qin Rishuang was speechless. "You didn't even know that we came in. What are you thinking about? Why are you so engrossed?" Qin Feiyang said, "I was wondering if Empyrean Palace has a library or something like that." Library? Qin Rishuang was stunned. Regardless of the relationship between the ancestor and Empyrean Palace, there's no mistake that he once entered Empyrean Palace. Perhaps his past deeds might be recorded in some historical books. Qin Feiyang pondered. Library, Qin Rishuang murmured. Qin Feiyang looked outside the cave abode and asked, "Are they still fighting outside?" "Yes. By the looks of it, they won't stop until there's a winner." Fire Lotus chuckled. "A bunch of idiots. They're just wasting time." Qin Feiyang sneered and looked at the 2 of them. "Did you guys notice something that Elder Qing said?" "What?" The 2 of them were suspicious. "He said that there's a person on this sword peak." Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. "I think he did say that." The 2 of them recalled carefully and nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "I'm curious about a person who lives alone on this sword peak." "What's there to be curious about?" Fire Lotus was speechless. "Girl, you don't understand. People like him are either extremely strong or extremely weak. There's a difference between the 2. The former is someone who disdains to live on the same sword peak as others. In other words, he's an arrogant and solitary person. The latter is someone who is ostracized by others. In that case, he must be someone who's timid, weak, and has an inferiority complex." Qin Feiyang chuckled. "Sounds like it does make some sense," Fire Lotus mumbled. "In your eyes, which one of Qin Deja's words makes sense?" Qin Rishuang teased. Fire Lotus was stunned and her cheeks flushed red. She hurriedly explained, Sister Rushwang, don't misunderstand. I'm just treating Qin Dage like an older brother. I don't mean anything else. Did I say anything? I don't think so. You're the one who thought about it. Fire Lotus, we're all good sisters. Tell me the truth. Don't tell me you've really fallen for this guy. Qin Rushwang walked up and chuckled. Sister Rushwang, I really didn't. In my eyes, he's like an older brother. Fire Lotus said hurriedly. Huh, look at how anxious you are. I'm just joking. However, if you really like him, don't hide it. After all, the Qin family still needs him to carry on the family line. One mermaid princess is not enough. Qin Rushwang snickered. Fire Lotus was a little helpless. I say, can you stop spouting nonsense? Carry on the family line? You can do it too. Qin Feiyang said unhappily. Can I do the same? Qin Rushwang said. What's the difference? You're the ancestor's daughter. By right, carrying on the family line is your responsibility. Qin Feiyang said. I'm a woman. There's a saying that doesn't work that way. A married daughter is like water that has been poured out. So, kid, you can't escape the task of carrying on the family line. Qin Rushwang said lightly. You're getting more and more excited. Qin Feiyang was speechless. Buzz. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's image crystal sounded. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. With a wave of his hand, the door of the cave dwelling closed and he took out the image crystal. Immediately, a purple-robed young man appeared. It was Gongzi Feng. As soon as Gongzi Feng saw Qin Feiyang, he cupped his hands and smiled. Brother Jiang, congratulations. What are you congratulating me for? Qin Feiyang looked at him in confusion. Congratulations on entering the 9th Heaven Palace. Gao Xiaolong and I have already discussed. We'll look for you tonight and have a few drinks. Gongzi Feng smiled. Is there a need for that? Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Of course there is. This time, not only did you successfully enter the 9th Heaven Palace, but you also fought back against my father and the rest. I feel so good. Gongzi Feng laughed. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. If your father hears you, he'll definitely scold you for being a white-eyed wolf. Tisk, do you think I care? Gongzi Feng smiled disdainfully. All right. Don't come tonight, in case someone sees you. As for Gao Xiaolong, you can go visit his sister. Tell me about Qin Badian. Did you get anything in the past few days? Qin Feiyang asked. No. I've asked many people, but they don't know the details. Gongzi Feng shook his head. Qin Feiyang asked, what about your father, grandfather, elder brother, and elder sister? I've asked my grandfather. Of course, I just mentioned it casually. After all, I didn't dare to ask about it openly. But my grandfather's attitude surprised me. Gongzi Feng frowned. Qin Feiyang and Qin Rushwang looked at each other and asked, what's his attitude? He seemed a little angry and regretful. He even scolded me and warned me not to mention the name Qin Badian again. Gongzi Feng said. Angry? Regretful? Qin Feiyang and Qin Rushwang both frowned. What was the meaning of this? Brother Jiang, I don't think there's any hope for this. It's my fault for being useless. If it were my elder brother and elder sister, my grandfather and the others might have revealed a thing or two. Gongzi Feng blamed himself. It can't be helped. They don't like you. Oh, right. What's wrong with your elder brother recently? Why isn't there any movement? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. After the incident at the treasure pavilion, he was punished by my grandfather to face the wall. I reckon that he won't be jumping around for a long time in the future. Gongzi Feng said with a smile, gloating. Don't laugh so happily. If he doesn't come out, I won't have a chance to deal with him. Qin Feiyang said. That's true. Gong Zifeng frowned and asked, should I go to my grandfather and plead for him? That won't be necessary. Moreover, it'll only be disadvantageous for you if you suddenly plead for Feng Zijuan. Because your grandfather will be surprised. Why are you suddenly so kind? He might keep an eye on you then. You just have to do one thing. Tell Feng Zijuan that I've entered the Empyrean Palace, and he won't be able to resist taking action against me. Whether it's him or his lackeys, as long as someone comes, I'll have a way to fight back. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Gong Zifeng said with admiration, Brother Jiang, you're really farsighted. I'll listen to you. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, besides, is there a library in the Empyrean Palace? Library? Gong Zifeng was stunned. Qin Feiyang added, a place like the library is fine too. There's no such place. Gong Zifeng shook his head. No. The Empyrean Palace has existed for so many years. There must be some historical records. Where are they? Qin Feiyang frowned. So, what you want is these historical records. Then why don't you just say the historical records? Why the library? There are indeed such historical records. Once, I overheard my father and grandfather talking about this in private. All the historical records of the Empyrean Palace from ancient times to the present seem to be in the Vice Palace Master's study. Gong Zifeng said, you're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.